I'm just making sure that I'm hitting my mark here on the stage. Yes, I'm in the right position. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening, and thank you to all of the people that we have that are on the live stream tonight. I just to do a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. This evening is divided into two parts. The first part of the evening will be the industry panel discussion, which is Producing from Beyond the Pale, and that's hosted by Women in Television Ireland and Screen Wexford. And the second part of the evening is the Wexford Screenwriters Academy Showcase, which Paul Walker, who you'll meet later, and I will go into more detail about after the intermission. Firstly, I'd just like to say a big thank you to our Cathaoirleach, George Lawler, who's come in tonight, and he's going to be opening this evening. So I'm just going to invite you up, George, to say a few words. Thank you. Thanks.
I believe initially Laura was suggesting that my title was the Ceann Comhairle. I like that nice elevation to high office. The Ceann Comhairle doesn't have to stand for re-election and is automatically re-elected to the National Parliament. So I like the way you're thinking, Laura. Can I say I'm delighted as Cathaoirleach of Wexford County Council to be here tonight for this very, very special occasion in this very, very special venue. I met someone earlier who was paying their first visit to the National Opera House, and we won't embarrass her by saying who it was. It's this wonderful mini venue within our National Opera House is the Jerome Hines Theatre, named after a son of Galway originally, but very much made his home in Wexford, Jerome Hines. And Jerome was very special to the people of Wexford for his love of the arts and his work within the arts industry and the Opera Festival in particular here in Wexford. So you're all very welcome to the Jerome Hines Theatre. And as Cathaoirleach of Wexford County Council, I'm delighted to welcome you all this evening to Wexford Writers' Showcase event and panel discussion. I'd like to thank in particular our partners, Wexford Film Director Laura Way from WFT.I Film, who is the main driver behind this event tonight, along with Women in Film and TV, the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland, Creative Ireland, and Screen Wexford, who are also significant partners for this event this evening. Wexford County Council have always been very proactive in supporting the film and screen industry, and we're very proud to have had such iconic films such as Saving Private Ryan, Brooklyn, The Lodgers, made in Wexford, and showcasing the best of what Wexford has to offer to a national and international stage. And with Wexford County Council in mind, I'm also delighted to acknowledge the presence of the Mayor of Wexford, Councillor Maura Bell, Director of Service for Wexford County Council, Liz Hoare, and our Arts Officer, Liz Burns. And this is very much supported by Wexford County Council, and we're delighted to be part of it. In order to be proactive and develop the rapidly growing film and TV industry in our county, Wexford County Council established Screen Wexford in 2020. We're delighted also to welcome Tara Studios here this evening, another very exciting development for Wexford, which the County Council has been very supportive from the start. And we look forward to working together over the coming years, in addition to attracting film production into the region and county. Wexford County Council's and Screen Wexford support is also about building from the ground up and nurturing Wexford's talented writers, filmmakers and creatives, which I think we can all agree we have here in abundance here tonight, as well as offering them opportunities to develop and upskill for the screen industry. This showcase event tonight is about exactly that, and I'd like to congratulate all the Wexford writers this evening who are having the first public reading of scripts that have been developed for the screen. All 8 have taken part in an intensive script development programme over the past year, led by WFT.I Film and funded by Wexford County Council's Creative Ireland programme. And I'm told that we can look forward to 8 uniquely dark and different tales firmly rooted in their hometown of Wexford. So I know you're very much looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I have to leave immediately. I have another function to attend that I couldn't get out of, and I very much wanted to be here, but unfortunately I have to leave. But I know that you're looking forward to the panel discussion focusing on filmmaking from beyond the pale, and I'd like to welcome all our esteemed panelists here this evening, and I know you're very much looking forward to hearing how you have all worked outside the pale over the last number of very difficult years. Thank you very much indeed for your attendance here tonight. I really, really do hope you enjoy the evening, and we at Wexford County Council are delighted to support this wonderful event. Thank you very much.
I think George mentioned nearly everyone there, but just before I hand you over to Fiona Kinsella, who's our host for the panel discussion tonight, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of our sponsors for the event. It's Wexford County Council, to Liz Burns and Liz Hoare, who without your support, none of this would be possible. And the Creative Ireland, who are our funders, and Screen Ireland, and the BAI, who funded the panel's discussion tonight. I also want to say a big thank you to Fiona Kinsella and Al Butler. Al Butler is our film and television coordinator here in Screen Wexford, and both of them have put in a huge amount of work into tonight and into our live stream. So thank you for all the work that you've done, and you can take it away.
Hey. First of all, just to introduce myself, I'm a Wexford woman. I'm a producer. I'm a board member of Women in Film and Television Ireland, and I also work with Laura and Paul on the Wexford Screenwriting Academy. So my main motivation behind the panel tonight was in March 2020, I accidentally moved back home to Wexford, and it was really a game changer for me. It allowed me the headspace and the support to concentrate on working on longer form content. And since moving back to Wexford, I've gotten development funding from Screen Ireland for feature projects. I was made head of production for Tile Media, and through them I'm working on a TV series, with a TV series in development for ZDF, and I'm producing my first TV series, which will go on air next year on TG Cahir, and I've also line produced 2 features and 1 TV pilot. So it's just been an amazing... It's just been an amazing experience, and that just got me to thinking that it would be really good to do a panel around people, not just like me, who've just moved back to the regions, but also people who've been working in the regions for years. So I put this panel together, and I'm really delighted with it because I think we've got a really wide range of speakers. So with that, I'm just going to introduce them all. So first of all, and I have to read this out, I'm going to introduce Anne Mulrooney, who's the studio manager of, wait for this, 5-time Academy Award, Golden Globe, BAFTA, and Emmy-nominated animation studio Cartoon Saloon, based in Kilkenny. And I think congratulations are in order. You just picked up 2 BAFTAs this week.
I know, for a film that we thought had done its run of winning awards. Yeah, Wolfwalkers just received another.
That's absolutely brilliant. Secondly, we've got Roisin Keown, who's the CEO and creative director of the Brill Building, which is Ireland's most awarded new creative agency, and she's working out of Clare. Then we have, joining us over Zoom, Ivan Dunleavy, who is CEO of Pinewood Studios and the co-founder of the highly anticipated Tara Studios in North Wexford. And,
good evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. And we've got Robert Higgins, who's an award-winning writer and director based in Longford. And his debut feature actually features one of the actors taking part in the table read tonight, Gary Lydon. And finally, Emmy award-winning producer and director Marissa O'Ray, who's also a fellow board member of Women in Film and Television. Hi guys, thanks so much again for taking part in this talk. So I thought how we'd start off is maybe we would go around to everyone and get themselves to introduce themselves and talk a bit about your background and also your companies. So I'll start with Anne.
My name is Anne. I'm currently the studio manager of Cartoon Saloon in Kilkenny, but I started by training and working as an artist initially, and then I moved into curating exhibitions and programs, and from that I moved into directing cultural institutions. And then about 3 years ago, just before lockdown, actually, I made a decision to return back here beyond the pale and move back to Kilkenny and took up my current role.
And can you talk a little bit about Cartoon Saloon and just the story of Cartoon Saloon and how it came to be set up in Kilkenny?
Sure. The origins of it really were in a youth organisation called Young Irish Filmmakers. And to me, like years before I ever thought of working in Cartoon Saloon, I used to use this as an example of the value of creative funding. Tom Ross Stewart, who was his co-director on Wolfwalkers, and a number of other people who became Cartoon Salooners at different times, all went to Young Irish Filmmakers and learned about filmmaking as teenagers. It was an after-school activity. And then Tom, Paul and Nora met each other in Ballyfermot, and they decided that they would set up together. And because they had that link with Young Irish Filmmakers, and the director there, Mike, who was incredibly supportive, they offered them a space, a physical space, when they first set up, and that's the reason that they ended up back in Kilkenny.
I think that's just fantastic, and it just goes to show that how kind of looking after young filmmakers at grassroots level is so important to establishing an industry, whether it's national or regional.
Yeah, and the ripple effects from that spread out so wide throughout Kilkenny. You know, it's had a really rich part to play in Kilkenny's cultural life, from theatre groups to media companies, to people who are interested in learning about animation and who then came to work for Cartoon Saloon. So it was quite a beautiful relationship, and we still have a very strong relationship with Young Irish Filmmakers who are still up and running in Kilkenny, which is great.
It's actually, I think when we were talking last week as well, the amount of live action filmmakers that have come up through Young Irish Filmmakers as well, who are doing really well, like Fergal Costello, John Morton. It's amazing. They're doing fantastic work.
And they all, in their time, played a huge part in Kilkenny's cultural life as well. There was an amazing theatre company called Devious Theatre that John Morton would have started off in. And Paul Young from Cartoon Saloon was a regular treading the boards as an actor as well.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Brilliant.
I'll just move on to Roisin. Can you talk a bit about yourself and how the Brill Building came about and your background?
Thanks. I guess my career is in commercial advertising. So I'm a copywriter, in advertising for 15, 20 years. And I actually had got to a certain stage within the established advertising industry. So I was head of creative at one of the biggest agency at the time. And then through a sequence of events, I was talking to Marissa earlier about emigrating. I emigrated from Dublin to East Clare. And I do think that there's not just one factor that makes you move. It can be several. And basically, between the jigs and the reels, I moved out of Dublin without a plan, without a job. And I really thought I was leaving advertising when I moved out of Dublin. The idea that you could do national advertising from anywhere other than Dublin just didn't seem feasible at that time. Sounds crazy now, you know, certainly not how it operates in other countries. And actually, I kind of kicked my heels for about 6 months. I thought I would never take another advertising brief again. I was kind of happy about it. And I got into then, basically, a couple of clients found me. Regional clients, actually Cork. The two clients that we made our name with were in Cork. I was travelling up and down from East Clare to service them, again, before COVID and before the cloud. And I've set up the agency differently from established advertising agencies because I really was quite frustrated when I was in that system that the creatives, the problem solvers, are not around the table with the people who have the problem to be solved, which is something that has sort of evolved in a unique way in advertising, where you don't see it in design industries. You're They're architects, you know, they have that prestige and they're there to solve the problem. So I could start again and I could start really lean. So the agency is very much about putting creatives and the client around a problem, which is what happens in the rest of the world and lots of other industries. So we're fully remote. We don't have an office. We're totally based in the cloud. At some point, we hope to have a content studio in the next couple of years, but we're kind of growing at the scale that we want.
That's brilliant. And I'm just going to ask you really quickly about the two projects they're essentially your flagship projects. Do you want to talk a little bit about those and the awards that they've picked up? Well, the chap that nearly wasn't there.
Yeah. So you were just speaking about Wolf Walker, obviously, and whenever you have a great project, how it just keeps delivering for you. We were really lucky because, well, maybe a function of luck and maybe a function of how we were actually doing practice and advertising in the purest way possible, which was just creatives and crew talent, really getting an assemblage of talent around the problem. So we created a piece of work for a very small Cork cancer charity. They're called Breakthrough Cancer Research, and they had no national profile, but they're doing amazing work. They're doing world-beating work, basically finding new cures for cancer. So the piece of work that we made for them was to overcome the barrier to donations, which was that we had done a piece of research, which was that people really needed a success story in order to part with their money. They didn't want a sentimental story. And we also wanted to create something that would engage people beyond just a typical ad. I don't make those. So what we did was we created the first shop 100% stocked and staffed by cancer survivors, because we thought that the best proof that cancer research works is actually the thing that the person who's here has made. So we had lots of creatives in that, actually, and Stephen Bradley, the film director, was one of the creatives whose work we were able to showcase. He just released his book at that time. And yeah, we were able to create a great story. I have to say my ambition at the time was to create a film with an entire crew of cancer survivors, and I haven't done that yet, but I will get there. As it happened, the crew was a crew of one. My very good friend, the DOP, Ross O'Callaghan, and he did everything for me at that time. And yeah, we just got a team of friends around it.
And that's gone on to win awards all over the world for you?
Yeah, we've... Look, in the advertising industry, we're very small, right? So the reason that I think I'm sitting on this panel is because I had to start learning how to produce, because we produced everything in-house because we weren't getting the budgets to do anything bigger. So that piece of work has won all the national awards. It's won effectiveness awards against the big agencies who have, you know, millions and big teams at their disposal, and it's really... I mean, everyone in this room has done it. Like, filmmaking is always about that. You just get your mates to do it and you enjoy doing it and you find out how to make it happen. And just this week it won 2 big European awards, which is huge for us. It gives us a great profile. It's a lovely story for us, because I think even as we grow, we'll have to make sure that we keep true to the ethos of what that actually was, because we really caught a bit of lightning in a jar at the time. So.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm just going to move on to Ivan now. Ivan, could you talk a little bit about your background and, just your background, please?
Sure. Well, a very, very long time ago, I trained to be an accountant, but I started my life in the music business for a record label, and moved from there to film distribution, and from there to video publishing. And for a while ran what was the UK's largest video publishing business called Video Collection. And we nearly 25 years ago, we picked up the rights for a very small little introduction act to Eurovision called Riverdance. And that went on, as everyone I'm sure knows, to be enormously successful globally. From there, I took a change in direction, and with the aid of a lot of venture capital money, went on to buy Pinewood Studios in the UK, and then Shepperton Studios, and then studios in Atlanta, Georgia, in Malaysia, in Toronto in Canada, and we, with the team, built what has become a great brand in the film studio business, and that's gone on to great success since I left the business a year or two ago. Studios, in North Wexford, and we're tremendously excited to now be in a position to get that development moving. I'd like to say a huge thank you to the Wexford community, to the county council, to our neighbours up in Carlinearan, and to the folk that have expressed such enormous interest in the studio throughout the region. And hopefully we'll be able to bring the kind of infrastructure that is part of the puzzle in attracting international productions, but also supporting Indigenous productions in film and television in Ireland.
That's great. And could you maybe talk a bit about your decision to open the studios in North Wexford?
Well, on the maternal side of my family, we're Wexford folk from Banno Bay. But beyond the emotional, there is some very hard business logic to choosing Ireland and North Wexford. We think the business case is incredibly strong, that Ireland enjoys a position as the only English-speaking country in the EU these days, that has great relationship with the UK market, and that has an incredible creative and craft skill base, but is crying out for additional infrastructure to really fuel the growth that is happening in the global market. And you know, one of the things you may hear me say throughout this evening is this is a global market. It's about telling stories that appeal to global audiences.
That's absolutely so true. I think what is the word? Glocal stories. If you find a story that has local resonance, it will appeal to audiences around the world. Usually, if there's a truth and honesty, I think, to the heart of it.
Absolutely.
And also, I missed it there, but I would be really remiss as a Wexford woman if I didn't point out the connection to Riverdance. The original show was directed by Declan Lowney. He's a fellow Wexfordian. I would be killed if I didn't say that, sorry. So I'm just going to move on to Robert now. So do you want to just talk a little bit about yourself and your company, Heart Media, and Longford?
Yeah, of course. So my company's called Heart Media. We started it in 2018. My background up to that point, I'd been kind of working in public relations and marketing. And my business partner, Paddy, he'd been in finance, but we kind of had always wanted to do film, and we were kind of messing around at home, learning the nuts and bolts, mostly failing badly, but we were kind of starting to figure out it a bit better, and we were starting to understand the idea of scaling up, getting people involved other than ourselves, and so we decided it was probably time to kind of start a company from there. So from there we kind of just started making short films, and we kind of had some pretty okay success with our first couple of films. They did kind of good festival runs. At the same time, we kind of used that to leverage into doing corporate work, training, all around Longford, and really just making the most of the supports that were there in Longford that might not be there everywhere else, especially Dublin and like places that are very dense with other film companies. So from there, it kind of came to a point where we were eager to make our first feature. So we kind of started raising money locally, and we kind of got great support from different places like Creative Ireland, Longford Arts Office, and that kind of got us over the hill to get the budget together for our first feature, which is called Lakelands. And as Fiona said, Gary, who's here, is a very prominent role in that. We also had great actors like Aina Hardwick and Danielle Galligan, and they all came down to Longford for a couple of weeks last year, and we kind of managed to pull it together on a low budget. But that premiered at Galway last year, where we were kind of lucky enough to pick up a couple of awards, and it's kind of on the festival circuit now, and it'll be released early next year by Wildcard Distribution. So that's kind of, it was all shot, set in Longford, and you know, there's huge rowing from the local community, it definitely wouldn't have been possible without them, especially on the budget we were shooting on. So yeah, it's just like, it was so beneficial to have that local buy-in and that local support. Definitely couldn't have been done elsewhere, I don't think.
That's brilliant. And I think I'm going to come back a little later after I've spoken to Marissa just about local support and the importance of local networks. So Marissa, I'm just going to move on to you now. And do you want to talk a bit about your background and what brought you here?
Yeah, I was trying to think of how to tell that story. And it probably starts mostly with meeting my husband, Niall McKay. And we met in Berkeley, California. And I was trained as a documentary filmmaker, a journalist. And we met there, and we started to date and make a movie together, which I wouldn't recommend doing that. It was a lot of pressure for us. No, it was fantastic, actually. Yeah, a few months later, we started to make the Bass Player Song for Dad, a personal documentary that was shown on RTE. And it went from there. We started a production company, Media Factory, moved from Berkeley, California to New York City. And we were in New York City until 3 years ago when we moved to Ireland. So we were living in Brooklyn, New York, and then we moved to Shalala, County Wicklow. Very similar. And yeah, and now we live in Wicklow Town. We just moved last year to Wicklow Town. The big smoke.
So I wanted to bring it back now to you. Oh, by the way, if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat on YouTube, and we will be passing a mic around at the end to the audience as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit to Roisin about the support that you got from the local county council and the enterprise office in Clare, and then I'll come back.
Yes, actually, I didn't get any monetary support or anything like that, but I still find it an invaluable resource. I definitely recommend anyone to, and I think the creative disciplines don't necessarily go to the local enterprise office maybe as quickly. And there's so many programs supporting rural entrepreneurship in any form at all. I know that Rob and I were just speaking about it earlier as well. The initial program that I got onto was Acorns. Now it's designed for female women, rural entrepreneurs, but it's a very interesting that was my, basically I guess about a year ago, I rang the local enterprise office and I said, this is going well, I better take it seriously. What should I do? And they put me in touch with Acorns. They said, look, that's your entry level, kind of. That's put some manners on your business. And how that, a lot of the structures that are there, the programs are about panels. So they put you in panels of your peers. So there was 6 of us. Gráinne Mullins, who runs Gráinne Chocolates, was there. Kim, who has Misunderstood Heron, was in my, like, amazing people doing great things. And what I learned from them was totally cross-discipline, because basically the basics are the same. And that was Acorn. So the local enterprise office encouraged me to do that. And once you're in their sphere, you see all of the other things that are available. For example, I'm going for growth now. You know, in my business, that would be, you know, an experience of something else. So yeah, that I definitely reach out to them. You know, like a lot of these structures were originally set up for, you know, farmers' wives making jam back in the 70s. They were like that is actually what so many of these programs were initially developed for, but they're reaching way beyond that now. Yeah.
I think that's important, those kind of networks, I think, for production companies and artists in general, because it can be very lonely, because generally we're working on our own. Marissa, how have you found kind of getting a network around you when you were in Shalala?
Well, we did a great thing. We made a short film in Shalala, and it filmed in Wexford and Waterford as well. So it was an opportunity for me, in particular, to go to these places and see if we could. We had permission from the local hardware store, from the cafe, the farm store in Tinahely. We went to the ferry in Waterford and got permission to film there. It was kind of fantastic. It was open arms. Everybody was curious and inviting and kind about us filming. And so it was a great introduction for me, because that was within the first few months of moving here, that's what we were doing. So it was kind of up and running, us producing outside in Ireland, and it was a really good experience.
Every local village in Ireland is crying out for a film, though, don't they? Like, everyone wants to be Ballycassanger. They're like, this is the one, lads. Didn't Mary Jones write the film or the play about it? Yeah.
And we had somebody who was in Ballycassanger in our short film, Deirdre.
Anyone who's ever set up a camera outside the whole thing, are you making a film?
Yeah.
Sorry, now I'm off track. I guess film networks are extremely important, not just of creatives, but of family and support and the local community. And I know that Cartoon Saloon, they have some amazing initiatives in Kilkenny that you kind of oversee. Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
Cartoon Saloon, I suppose it's a little bit different in that it's been going an awful lot longer. There must be 25 years at this point, and it's gotten much bigger as time has gone on as well. So it kind of varies between 180 to 150, depending on how many productions we're doing. And because I guess we feel that Kilkenny has been very good to Cartoon Saloon, so it behoves us to be really good to Kilkenny as much as we can. So we work in partnership with the local authorities quite a lot on different initiatives, like the Kilkenny Cat Trail, which was a local tourism initiative. We used Panger Bawn, which was a cat character from The Secret of Kells, and various different artists decorated these giant fiberglass Panger Bawns. We created a trail with a mapping, and that was to kind of encourage people back to Kilkenny after lockdown, etc. But we also have Kilkenny Animated, which is a festival that we set up about 5 years ago that's starting to kind of find its feet now. It's quite small, but it feels like a really great opportunity for us to be able to feed into the very rich culture that already exists in Kilkenny. And it's a chance for us to maybe give members of our crew opportunities to try out delivering workshops or giving talks, and also a chance to bring people that maybe we'd like to really hear speak or see their work in Kilkenny. But I guess, you know, we do those things for different reasons, partly because there's an element where we just would like to help make the world a better place. There's an element where we really like to work in partnership with the local authorities, for example. But we also know that the more that we can improve the life in Kilkenny, make it a more vibrant, more attractive place to live, then also the more enjoyable it is for our crew who are there, and the more likely it is that people will want to move there to work and to settle there, which is hugely important for us.
That's fantastic. I'm going to go back to Ivan now. I know that Indigenous filmmaking is something that's really important to you, and I just wanted maybe for you to talk a bit about that in the frame of Tara Studios and how you see that playing out in the future.
Sure. Well, the short answer to that is yes, it is important, and it has an equally valuable place in the culture of filmmaking, but also the economy of filmmaking. You know, it isn't always all about the blockbuster production, whether it's film or television, because from a studio point of view, the harsh economics are you need to be as full of production as you possibly can be. And, you know, if like Tara, you have 7 stages and 6 of them are busy on a big picture, what do you do with the last one? And of course, what you want to do is appeal to smaller productions that can come in, benefit from the economy of scale, benefit from the community, the campus of skills that are established at the studio, And from the studio's point of view, yes, it's good business, but it is also really exciting to see newer, younger talent coming through the system, because they are going to be the producers, the directors, the DOPs of tomorrow.
That's so true. And I think, how important was the regional uplift to your decision to locate Tara Studios in North Wexford, just out of curiosity?
Well, my partner in Tara Studios is John Gleeson. He's the head of media at Safri Champness, and he's working with me on Tara Studios. John and NBC Universal, together they were one of the architects of the regional uplift. So it's a subject that's very close to our hearts. It is not an entitlement. It is something that the industry has to prove is worthwhile getting from national government. It is, we feel, it can prove to be beneficial both at a regional level but also at a national level. But the way to win those arguments is on an evidence-based basis, and if we can do that, given the, particularly these days, there are enormous demands on the public purse. Given that, we think there is a very good case for the regional uplift and for continuing with it beyond the existing sort of tapering sunset clause.
Yeah, I think one of the things about shooting or filming outside of Dublin is probably trying to bring crew in, and I think one of the things that Tara Studios has is probably within that 50-kilometre radius there's a lot of really established crew, but also, even having said that, it's really important to bring kind of training in, and I was wondering, is that something that, is there kind of any kind of initiatives that you think might come out of Tara Studios regarding that, or will that come in from the productions?
No, I think the studio has a role in that, very definitely. Our choice of location is deliberate. Yes, we are in North Wexford, but even adhering to the speed limit, we're only 55 minutes from Dublin Airport. So, that's clearly been on our minds. And having, the scale that we envisage Tara Studios will have available to the crew base that is on that East Coast corridor is an important factor for us. In terms of training, that's absolutely a key objective. I don't want to jump the gun, but I would suggest it's a watch this space. We're working already with a couple of the training institutions to make Tara an open lot. And that's a philosophy that we have both in terms of training but also in terms of commercial availability. The industry at large should be able to benefit from access to the studio facilities, from access to the community that we hope to establish now.
Thank you. I'm just going to go to Robert. So when you went about shooting your first feature in Longford, how did you find crewing up for it?
Yeah, it was actually not too bad at all. We were kind of in a lucky spot in Longford. It's kind of an hour 20 from Dublin, so it's not too bad. But I guess the tricky part for us was finding accommodation for all these people in Longford. But luckily it was just ending COVID, and we went into a local hotel, and 0 bookings, so we were able to just book out the whole hotel, and they were delighted, obviously. So it wasn't actually an issue at all, you know, and because everyone was kind of living together, we kind of got a real closeness going, I think, while making the film, and everyone kind of really, like, we're all kind of quite good mates now today, like, from the experience. So there was like a lot of benefits from it, I think.
Okay. And I think I'll just ask all the panel, have you ever found it, has there ever been a difficulty of not being based in Dublin? And how did Cartoon Saloon manage that or navigate that?
I don't, certainly in my time, it's never been an issue. It's never been thought about at all. I know when I worked in visual in Carlow, I kept trying to persuade Cartoon Saloon to relocate to Carlow, which I feel guilty about now.
And Roisin, how do you manage? Because you would have clients in Dublin as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, when I started in 2019, so I had clients in Dublin and in Cork, and I was actually on the road about 4 days, 2 to Dublin and 2 to Cork. But I still wasn't inclined, even then, just before COVID, so a little bit of luck. But I still just had the sense that we didn't need an office. I remember quite early on, one of the guys was like all buzzed about the work we were doing. He's like, I'm going to go down Dunleary seafront and see if there's office space. And I was like, I just don't think. So I mean, I have this thing about offices in their current form, which is that they're a bit like the compact disc. So they're an outdated delivery format. You know, if you're an outdated, like, work no longer needs the office, therefore offices are going to change. You know, you're only there if you're actually needed. So look, there's other things we need. I mean, there's a total lack of studio space all over the place, and I would love to really have more of a production hub, you know, for commercial production down by Limerick. That is a bit more challenging for sure. Like, it's easier, sometimes it's easier to get like somebody to hop in the car to a field in Galway than it is actually to tell them you're doing it in a studio. Like, I said, I don't know if anyone else finds the same. It's a bit like, well, then why couldn't you find somewhere in Dublin? But it hasn't been a barrier for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Not really. I mean, pre-pandemic, I feel there was like a lot less, the Zooms were like a lot less accepted, you know, some way of meeting. So it could be a little bit taxing at times doing the bouncing between the two, depending on where you're working and stuff. But like recently, I don't think it's been an issue really at all, because it's kind of been normalized just to do it digitally if it's not that big of a meeting or something like that. So that's really helped a lot, I think, in easing the time on the road.
And Marissa?
Well, I had an experience last year of working for a production company, and the production was actually in North County Dublin. So from Wicklow to North County Dublin every day was awful, and I don't want to ever do it again. For the most part, when we're making our documentary films or writing, we can do that from anywhere. That was the original reason why we decided to move to Ireland. We didn't have to be in New York City to make our films. We could be where we wanted to be and make our films. And so we chose to move to Ireland.
And you're actually working with a company in New York at the moment now.
I am, yeah. So I work with an organization called Girl Rising. I'm on a climate change initiative. So there's storytelling projects from around the world done by climate leaders who are young climate activists. And so I talk to them on Zoom. I'm talking to people who are in Nepal, India, Kenya, Uganda, Chile, and Costa Rica, to name a few of the places. Yeah, and the organization itself is entirely remote. So my colleagues are also around the world, in India, in Guatemala, in Kenya. And the leadership is in New York. So a lot of times we're in New York time, but they're also not going into an office. So this is the new office, this remote way of working.
I think it's fantastic. It's great. And then I know myself, with Tile, I'm based in Wexford. One of my colleagues is in Dublin and the other one is in Manchester. And I've done pre-production on features remotely, and we only get to be in the space together like just maybe 4 or 5 weeks out from production. So there's no reason why you can't do it that way. It's probably much better for the environment as well. So I wondered, does anyone have any questions? I just think at this point, I can't actually see. If you want to put up your hand, if anyone has any questions or... Okay. Yeah, no questions online or anything. Oh, there's Stephen.
Thanks, Fiona. I was interested to ask Ivan how does he intend to compete with Ardmore Studios in Wicklow, so close?
Well, there's competition in the marketplace, and that's just a commercial reality. You know, we think there is such a growth in demand for content globally that you know, the demand for studio space is continuing to rise, particularly in Ireland. We will have a particular range of offers that maybe would be special to Tara Studios. For instance, we're targeting a net zero studio environment. We're looking at providing the sort of digital techniques that we're all becoming so familiar with in the last 2 or 3 years, where you could do ADR in Los Angeles on something that was shot on the studio floor, you know, a day or 2 ago. So those are, you know, things that we bring to the mix. But to be honest, I'd be happy to see more studios in Ireland than Tara and Ardmore, because the demand is there. And I'm a great believer in the philosophy that all the boats go up on a rising tide.
Absolutely. I just have a question from online, and I think it's a great question. What could the government do to encourage even more regional growth? Ivan, could I start with you?
I think the single biggest issue at the moment for the sector is training. And, you know, it's great to see initiatives coming forward. But, you know, pulling those together in a coherent strand is important. Letting young people know that this is a sector where there are jobs and where they can work in a variety of skills. One of the amazing things about film and television is the range of skills that are needed to produce the shows, to produce the films. Yeah, when I was at Pinewood, they made the Hugh Jackman Les Miserables, and they were struggling to find baskets that fitted the period look of the film, because all of the baskets that are available at Dunn's stores are identical, and that didn't make sense. So they went out and hired basket makers. Now, no one thinks about that as being a skill in the film industry, but that's the diversity of opportunity that is available in this sector.
That's actually so true, and then that becomes a fixed member of crew suddenly. You have the go-to experts and basket makers, and that's
there'll be a head of department in basket making.
And you were talking as well about the skill set for animation, where you were saying like you don't need to be good at art for animation. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I guess it's something that we think about quite a bit. We get a lot of requests in for talks and for career development sort of presentations. So, and we do feel like it's important to bring on that future generation. So we devise quite a lot of offerings that we can bring out to schools. And the approach that we take in that is that there are so many different paths. You know, there's everything from physics to accountancy to operations, facilities. It really, one aspect of animation absolutely is being able to draw, but you know, all the rest of the supports that go around that and that actually bring that raw content as a finished piece to an audience you know, there's such diversity in that. So it's really nice to be able to go into schools and to kind of tell them, you know, you can think about it differently. It doesn't just have to be the people doing art who think about this. There are indeed lots and lots of career opportunities in this sector, and I think that's only going to continue.
And another question's just come in, and I think it's important just in light of all of the different skill sets. What are the roles that most urgently need filling? I think we kind of know accountants are one of them. And there's an urgent need for accountants.
For sure, accountants. And there's a bit of time that's required for accountants to learn how you do accounting for productions, because that's a very different thing. The legal side of it also, contracting, licensing, distribution, all of that. Within the kind of animation side of it, I guess the specialisms, because colleges don't turn out layout artists. They'll turn out an animator, and that animator then has to learn the specifics about being a really good layout artist. But it's not like, you know, there are courses for posing specifically or layout or background. So it's those kind of niche pieces. But colleges can't do that. So then it does fall back onto the sector to start to work out, well, how do we offer the opportunities for people to develop those skills and those specialisms?
Great. Would anyone else have anything to say on roles that they feel or most urgently need to be filled? Or
Well, booking an editor at the moment is a real challenge, and I think actually a skilled editor will always, it's an amazing skill to have. It's like being a plumber or an electrician in our business. The business might change, but yeah, so yeah.
And junior editors as well, actually assistant editors are another thing.
Yeah.
I would think that, you know, certainly all of those are required because, as I said, the demand is rising. But I think we've also got to be looking forward in terms of virtual production techniques as well.
Yeah.
And that applies, you know, whilst our conversation today has been about film and television, don't ignore the computer game sector.
Absolutely.
Those skills are completely transferable.
I think we've a question here from Laura.
Just to go back to the regional uplift, just my experience in the last two productions I've been working on have been mainly based in Bray and Dunleary. And still what I'm hearing from producers is that like the regional uplift itself of the 5%, and now it's decreasing to like 3%, then 2%, is still not enough for indigenous for smaller based productions like 2 million to 5 million productions to actually go in, to be able to work in the regions. There's definitely a desire to do it because we're fighting over locations, and there's not enough locations. Sometimes there's a crossover in locations in Dunleary and Bray at the moment. So I mean, what do you think? What can local county councils, what can the government do, I suppose, in order to try to incentivise a little bit more for maybe Dublin-based production companies to film in the regions? Do you guys think?
I've got no idea.
I think I wonder, is that nearly too big an ask in some ways? Like, actually, it's about getting as much as what we're talking about here is getting more regionalised production hubs kind of alive, whether that's Cork or Limerick or whatever, and or Galway, whatever, and if there's kind of a buzz around them, then you might see it's all word of mouth, isn't it, in our business about they did that, they did it for this, and this is why it worked. I think on a case-by-case basis, it's going to be quite a challenge to be the first.
Yeah, I guess it's just difficult to be in Wexford and then have skilled crew in Wexford. You're really bringing all the crew down from Dublin and Wicklow in order to fill that spot. So
I think that's until we have skilled crew here, and that's about what
we're trying to do.
Yeah, and actually I just have it's kind of a question/comment in from Cronog Media here, who's saying, can existing small companies in the film space be encouraged to help grow the community in rural Ireland? And I think the answer is yes, if they're given the proper supports, which is, I think, what's beginning to happen here. Would anyone else have any? Robert, how do you find it?
How do I find the repeat?
How would you find what kind of supports would you think Harp Media would need to have in order
Yeah.
to grow the industry in Longford?
Yeah, as you're saying there, like, I mean, something like the rap fund they have out west is incredible because it just gives you that little bit that can really help, especially if you're trying to make that kind of 1.72 million film or something like that. That chunk can be really pivotal in getting that together. So, like I've always said, I think it'd be great if some other counties banded together in the different regions and there was that option and it wasn't just set out to the west. Because, you know, that is an argument that's, it's tricky for, say, us if we want to shoot in Longford on our next one when we're moving up into a bigger budget and, you know, there's more money elsewhere and it kind of puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage trying to shoot it there because there's more elsewhere. So yeah, I think there does need to be kind of, that has to be considered in terms of if you're going to support these regions, you know, that they have to be on an even keel with the other ones. So I'd love to see it done here and in the Midlands as well.
And can I just ask Ivan, actually, because I'm just interested to know, as part of the studios, have you considered, like, accommodation must be a consideration for you. Are you finding that difficult in Wexford, or do you think is Tara Studios setting up some kind of accommodation for filmmakers that are coming in and crews that are coming in, or is that something that you think the county need to address a little?
I think your question is about hotel accommodation, if I've understood it correctly, and I think one of the advantages that we have in North Wexford is you know, it's very close to the motorway. The Tara Studio is very close to the motorway network, so it's a relatively easy commute. I don't think Tara is well geared to you know, become hotel keepers. But you know, to an earlier point on the regional uplift, I think we've all suffered from the fact that the first 2 years of that was kind of taken away from us because of COVID, and that's just a great shame. So we've kind of not had the opportunity to show the benefit of that uplift in that sense. But I'd also emphasize that the way the uplift works is not everything has to be done in the regions. There's still the opportunity to do a fair amount of the shoot in Dublin or in Wicklow. So, I mean, that was a very clever structure within the uplift program. And so, you know, I think that those have all got to be borne in mind. And, you know, for particular productions, the regions may not be suitable, and I get that. But I think, you know, as the skill base grows, as the studios grow, as the kind of familiarity with filming in North Wexford grows, that program will become even more productive going forward.
Great. I think, Marissa, did you have something?
I just wanted to bring up something. We talk a lot about the training hubs and the newly created training hubs especially for young people, and that would be something close to my heart, having worked with a lot of students and taught filmmaking classes here. But we also should consider as well, we're talking about jobs like accounting or other jobs where people can retrain, adults can retrain, and that is so much cheaper to do that retraining and have those people come right into work and understand what a working culture is like because they've been in the working culture for how many years. And bringing that up regionally, I think, is going to be part of the answer to this.
That's a really great point. Yeah, second career.
Second career.
So I think I'm going to wrap it up here, unless does anyone have one more question here in the audience? Or oh, Catherine's running up the stairs.
Hi, I'm Alison, I'm a writer. I'm just picking up on what Marissa said there about the retraining. A lot of the opportunities for film and television, the opportunities ask for a TV credit or a film credit. So I was just wondering from the producers, what is a way around that for somebody who has, say, a lot of writing experience but may not actually have a feature-length credit or something like that?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be a feature-length credit. I think maybe start with a short and find local filmmakers and try and make it happen yourself. I think we all sort of need to do our time sometimes and do something like get together, a gang of friends, and make something and get that out to festivals, go to festivals, meet other filmmakers. It's about building up a network, not just here in Wexford, but just going out to festivals. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but I think that's what you kind of need to do. It's just try and put yourself somewhere where you can make your own opportunity. I could probably talk to you a little bit better about it afterwards if that was okay, but it is possible. Would anyone else have any comments on that?
That's a great answer, really.
Oh, yes, sorry. And if you're not already registered on Screen Skills Ireland or Screen Ireland, the training facility, register and do those courses because they're the best way to network. You're meeting your peers, you're meeting trainers who are not just teachers, they're people working within the industry. So start building your network from there. So just before I wrap up, I just want to say a big, huge thanks to Anne, Roisin, Robert, Marissa and Ivan. Thank you so much for taking the time. You've been absolutely amazing. And I think we're going to leave it there. We're just going to have a 10-minute intermission while we just change the tables. Well, put tables in so we can do a table read. If you want to go to the loo, have a drink or whatever, and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Just welcome back to the Wexford Screenwriters Academy Showcase, and this is a Bodisi film, Screen Wexford and Wexford County Council initiative, which is funded by Creative Ireland and Screen Ireland.
In 2021, 12 new Wexford writers were selected for Phase 1 of the inaugural Wexford Screenwriters Academy to create 12 original scripts for television broadcast through our unique scripting programme.
All 12 writers finished with full scripts and that they can now further develop with producers and directors, and they now have samples of the work for the industry.
8 scripts were then selected to move into Phase 2, a professional script development for a commercial anthology series titled Menapia.
The 12 original writers took part in masterclasses with industry experts, including producers of Young Offenders that work with Channel 5, Virgin Media, RTE, development executives from Peaky Blinders, and former head of drama, BBC Drama and Channel 4 Drama, John York, as well as agents, commissioners and representatives of the Writers Guild. After the 8 writers were selected, 8 scripts were then selected to move into Phase 2, and they're uniquely dark and different tales firmly rooted in their homeland of Wexford.
So tonight we present a reading of some sample scenes as a celebration of their work, read by our esteemed actors.
Kiernan Messett, Alicia Jarrett, Gary Lydon, Claire O'Donovan and Ronan P. Byrne.
And now to our readings.
First up, Ward.
By Abigail Way.
93-year-old Harold, a celebrated archaeologist, has begun a process, the beginning of the end. In order to achieve his goal, he calculatedly recruits Davin. He's 10 years old and his neighbour, and he's manipulating him and gaining his trust.
When Harry tries to steal a painted rock, Ali, his neighbour, is called to take him home. Ali's son, Davin, becomes curious about this barge-dwelling neighbour, and Harry starts to lure him into his web.
Interior, exterior. Ali's car, same evening, May 23rd. Harold's hand writes and circles the date onto a scrawl and sketch-crowded notebook page. It fades into Ali, 43, drives Harold home in strained silence. A carer by nature and profession, she's frayed a little beyond her years, her pleasant features touched by the strain of desertion.
You're not family then? Next to kin?
In a rearview mirror, a young passenger rides incognito, a black ninja balaclava obscuring his features.
Neighbour, that's all.
Ali mouths sorry to him. Davin, 10, bright, chaotic, but shrouded by the sorrow of their shared loss, scowls hard, then breaks the act, giving her a big thumbs up. She knows he puts on a brave face, but he's struggling like her.
We don't know him.
Harold huddles, a trickle of blood escaping his clenched left fist. Landscape sweeps past. His breath fogs the window. Fade to. Exterior, barge, same evening, a short time later. Through thick lake mist, Harold shuffles from a secluded shoreline onto a dilapidated jetty. Tethered there, an ancient barge, barely afloat on the still water. She tilts curiously to the starboard side, scrappage material cluttering her deck. Harold embarks, slots the key into the lock. From the car, Ali watches. She doesn't want to know the answer.
Do you have anyone?
Harold struggles, jiggling the key.
Mr. Erickson.
A buzzard flies low overhead, crying. The key turns.
You know, you can't stay here.
Harold disappears into darkness, slamming the door. Pinned to it, a fluttering eviction notice. Effective June 18th. It tears away, flying over green forest, blue lake, jewel-like in amber evening sun. Interior, Davin's home, kitchen, same evening, continued, sunset.
Set the table there, Davy.
Davin begins the task, making sure to set a place for Grandpa, a ritual that concerns Ali.
Davin, honey, we talked about this.
Don't even say anything, Mama. I'm not doing it. It's not even for me. It's for him.
Okay, but... Anyway, yeah, his books. They're all history, archaeology.
Ali passes 3 glasses to Davin to set.
Dinosaur bones?
Well, maybe. But more so, people stuff. Artifacts, you know, like old swords and coins,
an ancient pottery from the Bronze Age.
Ah, nice.
Ali begins to dish up dinner.
Yeah. I think he was a kind of celebrity of ancient discoveries. Imagine the life he had, all over the world. In Egypt, digging up Cleopatra's old gold bracelets.
Did he?
Well, maybe not Cleo's accoutrements, but pretty important stuff.
Riches beyond belief.
I suppose so. Treasures. You never know what could be on that barge under all that junk.
Davin's eyes light up. Ali opens a tub of tuna and mayo. Cut to interior barge, earlier that day, present. Harold pops the lid off another box, a swaddled object inside. His surroundings look busy, preparatory.
How old is he, Mum?
Oh, easily 100.
A glimpse of old gold as he lifts the swaddled item delicately out. Cut to interior, Davin's home kitchen, same.
Well, that's why he's so peed off then. At least Grandpa didn't get too old to have fun.
A little taken aback, Ali contemplates the theory.
I suppose. It's hard to know exactly why Mr. Eriksson is peed off. I think he was really something, Dav, back in the day. But he's a bit of a mystery now. No friends, no family. Maybe he's lonely.
A pause. Davin considers as he loads his fork.
Like me.
Ali freezes mid-bite. Tears well spontaneously. Davin shovels another baby potato into his mouth. Exterior, barge, next evening, June 1st. Harold circles the date. It fades to, on deck, Harold and Davin categorize scrap metals at the table. Bundles of dried grass and twig kindling lay at their feet.
Would you like to learn how to hunt for treasure, Davin?
Davin looks up at him, eyes wide. Harold holds his gaze.
You have great potential. No, I needn't tell you that. I would be willing, honoured, to mentor you. Of course, if the prospect doesn't interest you...
No, it does. It most definitely does.
Then you are agreeable to my proposal.
I am agreeable. I agree.
Harold plays it up, leaning in and holding eye contact.
The knowledge I will impart requires great presence of mind to employ appropriately and effectively. Are you prepared to take on the responsibility?
I am. Yes.
Are you willing to commit to the terms of a treasure seeker's bond? An alliance of secrecy?
What does that mean?
Harold leans in closer to him, bringing on the intrigue.
No one must know of us, Davin. Not all can understand the seeker's wisdoms or ways. You must give me your oath.
Davin is suddenly hesitant.
Well, do I have your word?
It's just me and Mum. We have a deal. No secrets.
Your mother has secrets, Davin. They are inevitable.
Davin is silent.
Unavoidable, but not always unenviable. Some spectacular institutions have been built on a foundation of secrets.
Davin stalls. Harold plays hard by playing nice.
But I would never pressurize you, Davin. Perhaps it's better to stay in the dark. In any case, I had always thought since Harry that I would take my wisdoms to the grave. So be it.
Davin is torn, tested by the dilemma. He shifts uneasily.
I should turn in for the evening. A sudden chill, I fear.
Harold rises to leave. Davin hangs his head. As Harold shuffles off, Davin looks at the Viking pendant replica still on the deck table.
Wait! Mr. Eriksson.
Harold turns to him.
I would like you to teach me.
Silence. Harold examines Davin, pretend gauging.
Please?
Do you accept my terms?
I accept.
Harold pauses for dramatic effect, as if considering.
Then tomorrow we begin.
Harold holds out his hand to seal the deal. Davin reciprocates and finds the replica pressed into his palm.
It's yours.
Harold leans into him with a finger on his lips.
Shh.
In cahoots, Davin raises his fingers to his lips and smiles.
Thanks, guys. Really lovely read. Is there anyone else out there that wants to come in the middle of all this? Jesus. Anyway. Next. In Red Boots by Chris O'Connor, an aspiring politician, Jessica Flynn, is running for election when she is involved in the hit and run of a child. It sends her spiralling out of control as she tries to keep her secret from a prying journalist, Laura.
In this excerpt, the child's mother, Niamh, is frantically looking for her child while Jessica is in a mad panic, not knowing what to do as she stares at her damaged SUV.
Exterior halting site, evening. Niamh is frantically rushing around, holding her toddler and shouting for her daughter Lucy. Paddy, her husband, runs up to her.
I can't find her down the lane.
God, where is she? Where is she?
We'll find her. She'll be okay. I'll get the lads, everyone. We'll find her.
Exterior country road, evening. Jessica is standing at the front of her SUV. The engine is running and the headlights are on. She's looking at the bonnet. The driver's side headlight is cracked. The bonnet is scratched and dented in several places. The front grille is busted and dried blood is coated to the vehicle in multiple spots. With a cloth, she begins wiping it down. Tears well in her eyes as she does so.
Hello there.
Jessica visibly jumps at the sound of this voice, dropping the cloth in the process. She swiftly spins around to see Seamus, 60s, approaching through the field on a rickety bicycle. His cycling is unsteady, veering lazily from left to right. He pulls up just short of her, a wide smile across his face.
Oh. Hi, Seamus. How are you?
Sure. Not a bother. Not a bother.
Good.
Seamus sways gently back and forth. Jessica tries to obscure as much of the bonnet as she can with her body.
So what brings you here?
Oh, you know.
Seamus' eyes move past Jessica to the SUV, to the cracks and dents. He takes a few shaky steps forward. His expression grows concerned.
Were you in an accident?
Jessica turns to look at the damage, then back to Seamus. She readjusts her body again to try cover it up.
A little scrape is all.
Jeez. You okay, love?
Yeah. Fine. I'm fine, thanks.
Do you need a hand? I can get John Dunbar's son out here. He can give you a once-over, tow you if you need.
No. Really, it's fine.
You sure? It's no bother, like, I can...
I said it's fine.
Seamus is slightly taken aback. His eyes again move past Jessica and scan the SUV. They stop when he looks at the passenger side headlight. Jessica notices this, turns to see what he's looking at. Blood.
I hit a dog. Just, it came out right in front of me.
Oh, jeez. That's not your fault. These things happen. Are you sure you don't need any help, like?
I'm sure. I just need a few minutes.
All right, so I leave you be then. God bless.
He waves and sets off on his way through the field, again drifting from side to side. He rings the bicycle bell several times as he disappears into the distance. Exterior country road, evening. Niamh and Paddy are running along the road.
Lucy?
Lucy, where are you?
Lucy?
Up here, quickly, quickly! The voice shouts from up ahead. Paddy and Lucy immediately set off towards it. As they close in, they can see a huddle of people, some of them crying, others walking away with their head in their hands. Niamh and Paddy push through the crowd frantically. The people part like the Red Sea to reveal a grassy ditch. Close on Niamh's face, the blood runs from it. Her eyes grow wide. Pain is etched into every feature. Her mouth opens and a blood-curdling primal shriek rings out. Exterior Flynn House, night. Jessica's SUV pulls in and heads straight for the garage. Interior garage, Flynn House, continuous. Jessica gets out of the SUV. She finds a large tarp and pulls it over the vehicle. Interior hallway, Flynn House, night. Jessica closes the front door behind her. She takes a moment to compose herself. Her breathing is rapid. She rushes down the hall. Tom appears from a doorway, bowl of popcorn under his arm.
Movie night? You want to join?
Jessica blows by her husband. Tears streaming. Tom looked confused, concerned.
Jess?
Ensuite, Jessica and Tom's bedroom. Jessica closes the door behind her, locks it. She paces the small room, breathing out of control, mumbling something quietly to herself. She ducks out to the sink and splashes water on her face multiple times. She kneels down at the toilet, sweeps her hair back, and puts 2 fingers down her throat. She dry heaves, then vomits. Tom starts knocking on the door.
Jess, you okay?
Footsteps lead away. Sorry.
Just leave me alone. Please.
Footsteps lead away. She hangs her head over the toilet bowl. Tears and saliva drip into the water below. Mascara runs down her face. Cut to morning. Sunlight beams onto the bed. Jessica stirs. It looks like hammered shit. She glances at the bedside clock. 9:30 a.m.
Oh, shit.
Hallway. She walks down the hallway.
Tom? Ava? Guys?
The house is eerily silent until a thunderous knocking on the door shatters the calm. Jessica instantly freezes, a deer in the headlights. The knocking continues. She drops to her knees and crawls towards the front door. The knocking gets louder, impossibly loud. Just as Jessica reaches the front door, it stops. Complete silence again. She hears a footstep crunch on the gravel, leading away from the door. She peers through the glass panel at the side of the door. Her POV. A man is walking back to his van. He has Paul's Repair Services painted across the side of it. Jessica pulls back the panel from the panel. Breathes a sigh of relief. Kitchen. She has her phone to her ear.
Alexis, was it?
Interior Morris's car, morning. Morris, her election agent, is driving. Jessica is zoned out in the passenger seat.
Yeah, it went really well yesterday. You did really good.
He looks over to her. His smile dissipates. She's staring straight ahead.
Jess?
Hmm.
Everything okay?
Yeah. Fine.
Morris glances between her and the road, a quizzical look on his face. Exterior country road morning. A bevy of Garda cars and technical bureau vehicles litter the road. A small crowd of locals have gathered. An old, spluttering hatchback pulls up. Laura, 20s, journalist, hops out and walks up to the cordon. Several officers are milling about, Robbie among them. She gives him a wave. He nods at her and leaves the cordon. They walk away from the scene. Laura has her notebook and pen out.
What do we know?
Young girl, 6 or 7, knocked down, killed, hit and run.
Jesus. Any leads?
Not yet. Working on it.
Who's the girl? Local?
Sort of. She's from the Halton site down the road.
Traveller?
Lucy Dundon. Parents are Neve and can't remember the father's name.
Where are they?
At the station, giving statements. It was rough.
Anything else?
No. Well, one thing actually. Found a sheet of paper. Had a bunch of writing on it. Not really legible, except for one bit.
What did it say?
Something about community, pulling together. Can't really remember. Could be nothing. So, see you tonight.
Laura finishes writing in her notebook and snaps it closed.
Sure.
Interior Wexford Guardian offices evening. Laura is working at her desk. There's a radio near her.
And coming up, we'll be speaking to Solicitor Jessica Flynn on her run for local office.
Kieran, the radio host, adjusts some sliders on the expensive-looking console in front of him. Sitting across from him is Jessica. There's a mic in front of her, headphones on her ears. Behind her, the on-air signalling light glows, red. A woman makes some adjustments to Jessica's setup, then gives Kieran a thumbs up and leaves the room. Morris, in the adjoining production room, watches through a glass partition. Kieran leans in towards his mic.
Thanks for being here, Jessica. Before we get into the political talk, we'd be remiss not to speak on the news, the very tragic news, that a young girl lost her life yesterday evening in what appears to be a hit-and-run incident. Just absolutely tragic. As a prominent member of the community, what are your thoughts on this, and is there anything you'd like to say on this matter?
A suffocating silence ensues. Jessica doesn't move for several moments. She shoots a glance to Morris.
Come on, Jesse, roll with it.
She slowly leans towards the mic.
Well, it's obviously incredibly sad.
Morris winces.
I'm at a loss for words, really.
She reaches for the bottle of water beside her, takes a swig.
What about the person who did this? What would you say to them?
She stops drinking, puts the bottle back slowly. Eyes now blazed with 1,000-yard stare.
I'd urge them to turn themselves in.
And what about the family? Anything you'd like to say to them? Now, as a mother yourself, this must hit particularly close to home.
Silence, prolonged, painful, agonizing.
Yes, I just can't imagine what they're going through right now. It breaks my heart.
As an important member of that community, it's crucial they know that you're on their side, right?
Yeah, I'm here for them, whatever they need.
She guzzles more water.
Thank you for that. Now, let's talk about...
Kieran's voice becomes white noise as we slowly zoom on Jessica.
Well done, everyone. Haven by Roberto Forte is set a few years into the future, where each night Anna plugs herself into the Haven console. Like a billion others, she rents her grey matter out to the corporate entity. However, her console's on its last legs. It's glitching and her pre-programmed memories are fading.
In the following scene, Anna is under suspicion from Haven of tampering with her console and risks being disconnected, so she goes to a backstreet technician for help. Then, having been purged of the virus hack, disorientated and dishevelled, she faces her AI liaison, Lennon. Finally, Anna tries to explain to her daughter Becky why Haven is so important.
Interior walk-in freezer. Moments later, Anna steps inside. One of the walls is covered in shelves upon shelves of black containers. He walks past them over to the corner, stops at a makeshift lab. Bunsen burners, incubators, coolers, fume hoods, and of course, chemicals. He starts selecting ingredients, apparatus. He saunters over to a tarp and pulls it off a dank-looking seat. Could be a Victorian dentist's chair or even a decommissioned electric chair.
Sit.
Anna dips into the seat while he blends chemicals in a beaker, fires up a burner, and pours some of the concoction into a beaker and boils it until it resembles tar.
Yeah, we'd usually have a bit more notice. Don't have that luxury right now, so we're gonna have to up the dosage.
Without warning, he slings an arm restraint around Anna's wrist, tethers her to the seat.
Considerably.
Pulls the strap tighter, then does the same to her other arm. Stretches the leather binder so tight the veins in her forearm bulge.
Now listen very, very carefully. Do not go in for your bloods until the very last second. I mean the last one. Nod if you understand.
Although frozen with fear, she manages some kind of a nod. He walks behind her, talks to her while tinkering away.
Don't give those liaisons anything. I mean, don't blink out of step, don't breathe, swallow like. There's 1 billion+ brains in there. You're an amoeba to him. Understand?
She can hear him fumbling away behind her. Anna's hands are turning red, purple. Her bounds cut off her blood supply to her fingers.
I've never seen a jump in numbers like that, and neither have they.
Anna's petrified. The whites of her eyes have never been so large, her heart so fast.
Why is this happening to me?
He rattles away behind her, mixing, scraping. Then he undoes his belt, pulls it free from his trousers.
Please, I don't have much time.
Finally, he walks back into her line of sight, belt in hand. He uses it to pin Anna's head to the chair, pulls it even tighter than her arm restraints.
Never had to inject that much into such a pretty eye before, though.
He stares into her eyes, uses his thumb and index finger to widen her ocular cavity, shines a light into her pupil. He lifts a syringe full of the dark solution and holds the needle only millimeters from her watering eye. He leans in and whispers in her ear.
No turning back. This should purge the hack, but I don't know what else it will do.
Before she even has time to register what he's saying or change her mind, he lifts a syringe full of the dark solution. Her legs kick as he depresses the plunger. The solution travels fast. Even the veins in her forearm turn back as the solution races around her body, away from ground zero. She convulses, shakes so violently that her chair, bolted to the fridge floor, nearly rattles free. Her restraints struggle to hold her down.
Last thing, in the unlikely event that you manage to survive this, I never want to see you again.
Anna blacks out. Scene 2, okay. In interior office, Haven headquarters, day. A nurse draws blood from Anna's forearm as she sits across for Lennon. He asked Anna some loaded questions.
If a door simply appeared and you could walk through and you would have never existed, no consequences, no pain, would you enter?
He waits for Anna's reply.
Are you asking me if I would kill myself?
Is that what you believe I am asking?
No, I wouldn't walk through.
The liaison looks at her for an uncomfortably long period.
Have you witnessed objects flicker, shimmer in a manner they would not usually do so? The colloquial term, I believe, is known as rifting.
Anna shakes her head.
Please verbalize your response.
No.
Have you ever experienced any such hallucinations, auditory, sensory, or visual?
Anna shakes her head again. A look from Lennon reminds her to answer aloud.
No.
Any time dilation, loss of time, blackouts?
She tries to listen as he drones on. Inside, Anna's doing all she can to hold it together. Interior, Anna's kitchen, night. Becky kneels on a seat at the kitchen table, marker in hand. She's drawing on a few sheets of paper. Anna peeks over her shoulder. Insert child's drawing of dozens of people lying on pedestals in a big room.
What are you drawing?
My class project about heaven.
You mean Haven?
Becky nods and continues to colour in her drawing.
Miss Casey said there is a really, really big room where people go to sleep for years and years. Billy's daddy is sleeping in there.
Becky keeps her eyes on the page and draws a little more.
Are you going to sleep there?
I'd never leave you like that.
But you work every night now, more and more, all the time.
That's why I'm getting more shifts at Cappuccino's. So I don't have to be in Haven so much.
Alison's mom said Haven made her hairdresser crazy.
Oh, I'm sure that's not true, honey.
But you don't know what they're doing to you, to your brain while you're asleep.
Anna slides in beside her little girl.
What else did Alison's mom say?
That when you're in there, you aren't able to dream.
Well, that's not exactly right.
Becky keeps drawing.
Imagine you had these amazing memories, ones you loved so much. You could watch them again and again, and every time it felt like the first time. Would that be so bad?
Becky shakes her head but doesn't take her hand off the marker and keeps colouring.
Well, it is kind of like that in Haven. They record our memories, and we get to watch them each night, like a dream.
Mine any of your dreams?
Of course.
Daddy?
Anna hesitates just a second too long. Finally, she nods.
Did Alison's mum tell you why so many people in the world work for Haven? Why we connect every night?
She said it was an eco...
She struggles to spit out the adult word.
Economic decision. And a poor one.
Anna takes a deep breath, bites her lip, and Becky colours again.
It's not all about money. Well, not all about money.
Anna thinks, how does she explain it all to a 6-year-old?
See, long before you were born, when I was a little girl, like you are now, a lot of people started to get sick, very sick. And nobody had ever seen a bug like this virus, the thing that made them ill.
Anna lifts Becky onto her lap.
It kept changing and changing, so we could never figure out how to make a medicine for it. Then one day, a really, really smart person decided to build a computer that was clever enough to make the new medicine that would kill the bug, this bacteria. But the computers back then just weren't fast enough to keep up with the ever-changing bug. So an even smarter person found an even better computer. You know where?
Where?
Anna points at Becky's temple.
Right in here. See, nature had already been developing the best computers for millions of years, but nobody knew how to make it work at its best. But one computer wasn't enough. He had to connect hundreds, and then thousands.
Anna picks up a marker and she draws a line from one sleeping person to another, connecting all the heads in the picture that Becky had drawn.
Then millions and millions of little computers to make one big one that was smarter than the virus. smarter than the disease. A computer that could know what the disease was going to do before it did.
Is the bug gone?
Well, it's never going away. But we're ready now. And because there are 1 billion of us working together, we can stop it before it ever hurts anyone ever again.
1 billion people?
Mm-hmm.
Then I think they won't miss one.
Thanks, guys. That was a great read. Thanks very much. Moving swiftly along. Next is A Place Called Paradise by Max O'Brien. It tells the tale of Joey and Annie Murphy, struggle to stay afloat in the wake of a tragic accident. Under the suffocating weight of grief, a marriage once so buoyant now drags them slowly beneath the waves.
Matters reach breaking point when Annie believes that Joe is seeing his mistress, Nancy, again. Joe is completely oblivious as he arrives home.
Interior, Joe's truck parked, evening. Joe's truck grinds to a halt on the gravel of the driveway. Dashboard. On it sits a box of chocolates. As the engine is killed, the barking hits. Joe winces. Cut to exterior Murphy House driveway moments later. Joe steps out. The Boorman dog stalks him along the dividing fence, barking all the way. Joe opens the front door, disappearing inside. Move to interior Murphy House evening. Joe pushes the door firmly shut. The barking stops. Joe sighs with relief, shoulders dropping as some of the tension leaves him. He takes a beat. Close up. A knife. It slices through a carrot with ease. Annie is chopping. Beside her on the counter is a selection of already diced root vegetables. She's laser focused on the job. Joe places the box of chocolates beside her. She continues chopping.
What do you expect me to do with those?
Joe is already moving around the kitchen, removing cutlery from the drawer as he makes to set the table.
What do you mean?
Close up, Annie closes her eyes. She inhales deeply. Shot on the knife, starts chopping again, faster now. Joe watches Annie's back, eyebrows raised.
The woman in the shop said those were her favourite, so I figured they were safe bet.
Annie's chopping intensifies.
Well, why don't you just give them to her then?
Look, if you want me to get different ones, I'll get you different ones. I can go back right now.
Close up, Joe's eyes widening. He flinches back, putting his hands up instinctively. The knife whizzes across the room, a mile wide, but in his general direction.
Jesus Christ, are you trying to kill me, woman?
Shot the knife. It wobbles where it's lodged in the wall. Annie, now bright red with rage.
I'd have hit you if that was the case, wouldn't I?
In spite of himself, a smile steals across his face.
I think it's more an issue of accuracy.
Annie screams. She picks up a handful of chopped veg and launches it at Joe. This time, Annie's aim is true as Joe is pelted with a hail of julienne carrots.
You think this is funny?
Annie,
She hurls more carrots. He shields himself as they bounce harmlessly off him.
Everything. Everything I do for you. Everything I've done for you.
Another handful of carrot confetti sails through the air. Against his best efforts, Joe bursts out laughing.
All right, Annie, all right. What's this about? I only got them for you because I thought you'd like them.
This time, Annie laughs incredulously.
The chocolates. Forget the fucking chocolates, Joe. Jesus Christ. Here.
Annie picks up the chocolates and drops them in the bin. A harsh bark. The Boorman dog has started again.
I don't want your guilt relief anyway.
Guilt relief? What the fuck are you talking about, guilt relief?
Don't. Don't start with me, Joe. I can't believe a word you say.
What? What are you talking about?
Stop.
She frantically sweeps the remaining carrots onto the floor.
You're lying.
In the silence, the Boorman's dog, booming bark, louder, tears well in Annie's eyes, and despite herself, she starts to cry. Joe doesn't know what to say.
Oh, fuck it.
The silence is unbearable. The dog keeps barking.
Please. Please, Joe.
Okay. I'm sorry about the chocolates and for how I've been lately.
Oh my God. You don't even know.
Joe, struggling to think over the sound of the Boerman dog barking incessant, louder and louder.
I'm trying to make this better. I thought things had been good lately, a bit better than in a long time.
Then just say it.
But
I knew this was a mistake. I knew that dinner was a mistake.
Joe desperately tries to reel the conversation back as it spirals away from him.
Say what? Please, just tell me what to say and I'll say it.
The barking carries over everything. Joe, exasperated, walks to the window and shuts it. Shot on the window pane. A crusty handprint of dried blood stains the glass. Joe stares at it. The noise cuts through.
Don't you get it? After everything, you're not going to change. You'll never change.
Annie turns away from him, shaking, shivering. She can't bring herself to look at him.
Annie, please. Please, Annie, look, will you just talk to me, please? Will you just talk to me? If I could just think for a second.
Always an excuse. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You have a fucking gift.
More and more squawking from the chickens, the barking, louder and closer.
I think you're going to leave, Joe.
Annie, no.
Bark, squawk.
Space might help us. Might be good for us. For you. Maybe I put too much pressure on you. Maybe I expected too much. It's my fault because we've both been through so much since...
Joe, for the first time, tears welling in his eyes.
Annie, please, Annie, don't.
Flash cut. Exterior, harbour, jetty, early morning. Shot in the golden light, Charlie, cherubic, smiling, standing at the bottom of the gangway leading onto the Lady Annie, his hair glowing in the sun. Shot, Charlie's tiny hand as it extends towards us, beckoning Joe to follow him, a whispered word on the breeze.
Dada, are you coming?
Joe wrenching himself back. Interior Murphy house, kitchen, continuous. Bark, bark, squawk, squawk, squawk.
Please, Annie.
Since Charlie,
Don't.
Since we lost him.
Flash cut to external sea, morning. We're sucked under. A great wave crashes over our heads, frothing, foaming around us. Bubbles break everywhere in great plumes, like swathes of white smoke in the writhing, turbulent, grey-blue water. We break through the surface, a single desperate rasping gasp for air. Rough, calloused hands extend before us as a rope recedes through scrabbling fingers. Joe cries out in an effort to hold on. Close up, the rope runs on through desperate hands. A child's distressed screams echo on the air, reverberating, choking, pleading.
Dada!
And a man's voice bellows in anguish.
Charlie! No!
Cut to interior Murphy house, kitchen, continuous. Silence. A dog barks. And the barking and squawking is louder than ever amidst it all, the sound of a young boy crying.
Annie, please.
No, it's too late, Joe.
No, I won't let this happen.
Joe.
No, Annie.
Pause. Suddenly, strangely, there is silence. At the peak of the crescendoing noise and tension, a frozen second of silence. The dog and chickens have stopped. Stillness.
From the beginning, it was your fault. All of it, everything.
The dog barks. The cacophony begins anew. Joe snaps. Joe goes into the back room and comes out with a shotgun. Annie goes white, screaming. She tries and fails to wrestle it off him.
Joe, what are you doing? Joe! No, don't, Joe, please. Stop.
Shot, Annie fills the doorway, blocking his way. He is too strong for her. He pulls her aside. She tries to hold him back, gripping his arm. He shoves her off, barely hearing her. In the doorway, she grabs hold of him from behind. In the effort of freeing him, his arm, he violently rips backwards. Crack! The butt of the rifle smacks back into Annie's face with a sickening crack. She falls back, her hand clutching her eye. Joe doesn't even notice. He steps out. He sees nothing but red. Cut 2. External Murphy House kitchen, backyard, continuous. The barking is incessant. The chickens, a young boy crying. It's deafening. We are twitching. The backyard is dark, illuminated by the light inside. Annie lies prone in the open doorway. More barking, more crying. A boy's voice, screaming for his father to help him. Cries and barking blend, louder and louder and louder. Then, bang! Shot to the window pane. A flash of light illuminates the bloody handprint on the glass. A final whimper of the dog or of a child. The gunshot rings out into the deafening silence. Cut 2. Interior Murphy House kitchen continuous. Piercing white noise works its way deep into the hollows of our eardrums. Joe slides the kitchen door shut behind him. He sees Annie in a heap on the tiled floor. He frowns, confused, not comprehending. He looks at his hands and the gun in them, and the woman he loves, curled up on the floor, blood pumping from her face. Close up, Joe's hands. He drops the gun. Clack. Cold steel comes into contact with the hard tile. Like a zombie, Joe moves across the room. The ringing in our ears rages on, relentless. Interior Murphy House hall continuous. We see calloused, trembling fingers reach out. The fingers come to a stop. Hovering over a telephone handset, they dial 999. Silence.
Thank you. In Pamper Me by Emma Quigley, bubbly beautician Sally Ann Sparkle Stafford, early 30s, has the perfect life. Owner of a successful mobile beautician business and married to her childhood sweetheart and hurling superstar husband Robbie, early 30s, they are the posh and becks of the seaside village of Rosslare. However, inwardly, Sally Ann grapples with the constant industry pressure to look wrinkle-free and Instagram perfect.
In this excerpt, Sally Ann and Robbie have just won the annual novelty race, as they do every year. The prize is a hamper, but Sally is still feeling a little mortified that she was caught with a sale tag on her shorts. Meanwhile, Robbie has just learned that he's losing his place on the hurling team to a younger player.
Exterior, pitch, Rosslare village, minutes later. Robbie is rummaging through the hamper. Sally Ann walks up to him, now wearing a flowing boho chic dress and sun hat.
Alcohol water. Who drinks this crap? Actually, sound dry up your street. 0 calories.
He offers the hard seltzer to Sally Ann, who shakes her head.
What are you doing?
Looking for a beer for the walk to the pub.
Robbie pulls out a naggin of premium whiskey. He shrugs, opens it and takes a massive glug. Then he stuffs it into his shorts pocket and picks up the hamper. They walk together. Then Sally Ann begins to veer off in a different direction.
Where are you going? Hold on, you're hardly going home. You're all dressed up.
I had to get out of those leggings.
Sally Ann glances around her and smooths down the dress as if people are watching and she has a standard to maintain. Robbie throws the hamper down.
Oh, God, let me guess. Your precious 8 hours sleep. Oh, come on, Sal, we've not gone to the Marquee for years. It'll be a laugh.
You usually have a match the next day.
In fact, I can't remember the last time we went out together full stop. One night won't kill you, will it? Just show what a cucumber under your eyes tomorrow. Didn't Maggie Thatcher famously survive in 4 hours sleep and she ran a whole country?
Clean sleep is vital. I've told you before, 8 hours minimum. Maggie Thatcher, I'm trying to sell treatments, not scare people away.
Sally Ann turns and walks off. Robbie stares after her. Robbie turns to leave and trips over the hamper.
Aren't you forgetting something?
Exterior, pitch, Rosslare village, day. Unsightly purple-red spider veins. The veins inflate suddenly, then retract like a beating heart exposed during surgery. We hear quick, forced breathing. pull out and we see that we are looking through a handheld mirror. The veins belong to a puffed-out cheek, inflamed, glistening with sweat, streaked with cheap, caked foundation. A pudgy finger appears. It blends foundation with sweat droplets in an attempt to hide the red veins. Suddenly, a hand with perfectly sculpted acrylic nails presses the mirror shut, gentle but firm. The hand belongs to Sally Ann.
2 magic words. Laser therapy. Told you before, Moll. We can zap those veins away.
We see the owner of the red cheek, Molly Latimer, early 60s. A good egg who tries to look fashionable but often tends to miss the mark. Molly's face is caked in heavy makeup, giving her skin an all-round, peculiar, crepey look.
What was I thinking? Sprinting at my age. I'm getting on.
You're fitter than me.
Today is the youngest you'll ever be. Inspirationalquotes.com.
Next time you're in for a lip wax, I'll explain the laser to you. We'll get you started on it. You'll feel so much better.
Perhaps you're right. The foundation won't cover them anymore. Maybe I need to join the queue over there.
We follow Molly's gaze to where a young woman, Kath Maguire, late 20s, dressed as a clown with a colourful wig and neon rose cheeks. Kath is enthusiastically painting children's faces. Beside her, a bunch of rowdy kids queue up. Kath spots Molly and gives her a friendly wave.
Miss Maguire, the new third-class teacher, delightful creature, natural beauty, and an absolute saint by all accounts. Now about the school fashion show.
Oh, the state of me. Hardly model material.
Wait, I've big news. We've got our hands on an exclusive Tulip Murphy, a showcase piece.
A flicker of uncertainty passes over Sally Ann's face.
Tulip Murphy?
Apparently, Tulip's cousin plays badminton with Martine, a school board, Joyce's husband.
Hmm? Who'll wear it?
Well, none of us have seen it yet. It's that exclusive. Tulip sent on photos. Her style is so eclectic. We won't decide until we see it.
Sally Ann looks uneasy, and Molly touches her arm.
You'll be fabulous in the show. We won't be able to tell you from the teenagers.
Sally Ann digests these words. Slowly and purposefully, she puts on her sunglasses, pushing them tight to the ridge of her nose. Exterior, pitch Rosslare village, moments later. Sally Ann walks across the field, lugging the hamper. She sees a group of local men all swarming around Kath. She spies Robbie in the middle of the group. He's laughing. She slows for a moment, watching. Interior, sitting room, Stafford House, night. Sally Ann is curled up on the couch in fancy loungewear, supping sparkling wine. She's surrounded by beauty industry magazines and hordes of free beauty samples. She rummages through various product samples. She pulls out a sample vial for a new Botox product, stares at it, then quietly admonishing herself, keeps rummaging. She pulls out a box called Magic Plasters.
The humble plaster that will revolutionise your life.
Sally Ann's phone beeps. On her phone screen, we see she's tagged in a video. It's an edited clip of the egg and spoon race showing her being pulled by the sales tag over and over. Wincing, Sally Ann scrolls through the comments section. The sales tag, cringe. Desperate housewife rule 101, don't get caught wardrobing in public. Can see the headline, daughter catches man or new Lulus. Sally Ann scrolls up, zooms in on the words housewife, then ma. She frowns. They make her sound so old. Interior sitting room, Stafford House, night, later. Sally Ann stands at the fireplace staring into the mirror. She prods at the skin around her eyes and her forehead. She leans right in, peers closely at the barely visible lines around one eye, her crow's feet, then the other eye. Gradually, we see the lines moving, creeping. Then they appear to get wider and deeper, more cavernous, each carving out distinct U-shaped valleys, joining like spider webs around her eyes. She steps backwards and swigs her wine. Interior sitting room, Stafford House, night, later. Sally Ann lies on the couch. Her face and neck are covered in large facial plasters with only her eyes and mouth visible. She resembles a burn victim. The TV is on now and the volume is low. Sally Ann stares at it mindlessly. She picks up her phone. On her phone screen, we see her type Kath Maguire into Instagram and view Kath's profile. Sally Ann begins to flick through the photos. Lots of Kath enjoying the outdoors, fresh-faced with no makeup. Sally Ann zooms in hard on Kath's face. Her big eyes, her clear, natural, blemish-free skin. Sally Ann chucks the phone down and presses very hard multiple times on the plaster on her forehead. She picks up the wine bottle and turns it upside down to pour the remains into her glass. The bottle is empty. Frustrated, she sits back. She turns the TV volume up. Her eyes fall on the hamper and the cans of hard seltzer. Interior sitting room, Stafford House night little later. Sally Ann bops gently to music. The contents of the hamper have been rifled through. The empty bottle of sparkling wine and empty cans of hard seltzer lie scattered around the room. It's clear Sally Ann's drunk a lot. Her alcoholic buzz long kicked in. The timer on her phone beeps loudly. From the phone, we hear...
It's time to remove your magic plasters. Gently tug at the red corner of the plaster and it will peel away easily.
Sally Ann leans in towards the mirror over the fireplace.
Okay, babies, now show this desperate housewife what you've got.
Roughly, Sally Ann whips off the facial plaster from below her eyes. She leans in, attempts to examine her crow's feet.
What the? Like literally the same as before.
She pulls the skin taut, then releases her hands.
Remember, only leave your plasters on for 30 minutes.
Sally Ann reaches for a can of hard seltzer, shaking the remaining drops into her open mouth.
Thank you for trying our patented skin tightening plasters. We're excited to hear your feedback. Tap the button to leave a review.
Oh, lads, your revolutionary plasters are shite.
She collapses onto the couch. Interior sitting room, Stafford House night later. Sally Ann lies on the couch, snoring gently. Facial plasters are still stuck to her nose, cheeks, chin and neck. The plasters pull at her taut skin, making her face look misshapen. Robbie stumbles into sitting room, steaming drunk. He sits on the end of the couch and stares at his wife's face in drunken confusion.
Jesus Christ. What have you done to yourself now?
Robbie's head droops. He sighs. After a moment, he tries to gather himself, and he reaches for a blanket and then gently puts it over Sally Ann. Then he slides on the floor, leans against the couch, burps, head droops again, and he closes his eyes. They're both comatose.
Great stuff, guys. Thanks very much. Next, Against the Grain by Margaret Hawkins, is the story of a woman, Alice Maguire, who spent much of her life and energy trying to keep the farm afloat, get Tom, her husband, and Andy, their estranged son, to bury the hatchet. After Tom is injured in a farm accident, things come to a head as son and father come face to face.
In this excerpt, a delighted Alice welcomes home her son Andy with his pregnant fiancée Jess after a 14 years absence. But unsurprisingly, his father Tom is nowhere to be seen.
Interior, barn. Tom is sitting on a stool, crutches beside him in the very organised barn. A place for everything and everything in its place. Taking meticulous care fitting a light on the vintage tractor that he is lovingly restoring. He concentrates even harder as Andy enters. Pause.
So, you're back?
Yes. How are you?
Been better.
Of course.
Andy looks around, remembering the good times. Playing with wood-shaving tendrils, the smell of the grease gun, of apples and potatoes stored for the winter.
This place hasn't changed much.
Why would it?
I suppose.
Were there many on the boat?
Andy is a bit taken aback by the mundane question. Jesus, he hasn't seen him for years and he asks a question like that.
A good few, yeah. Easter holidays.
Aye.
You're doing a good job on this.
Something worth doing is worth doing well.
Yes. Mam has lunch ready. Jess and herself are chatting away.
Right.
We'd best head in. She's gone to trouble.
Tom puts away his tools and stands up with care.
Women for your life. Thinking tea and sweet cake will sort the world.
And he bites his tongue, afraid that they'll get into an argument.
How's the leg now? Painful?
An absolute whore.
And he smiles at the expression that he hasn't heard in a long time. Tom makes his way out through the door and across the yard, conscious of his son watching him, and of Alice and Jess watching from the garden gate. Alice links Jess and heads into the house. Andy closes the door and is uncomfortable as he follows his father, slowly, but tries to look as if he isn't. Interior Maguire's kitchen, short time later. Alice is clearing plates off the table. Andy and Jess pass them to her.
So how did you two romantics meet?
Tom doesn't answer, but he isn't disinterested. He was young once.
At a dance in the Doon Wirra Hall in Wexford town. He said I was the only one who could do a decent quick step.
Tom smiled slightly.
I never heard that.
There you go. You must have been very light on your feet.
He was. Is. Anyone for another piece? Jess?
Oh, thanks. I'm stuffed, honest.
Andy makes full signs too.
And you two? Andy? Never said how you met.
At an exhibition.
Ah. Tells me you ran out with the rain.
Oh. I did. I ran in out of the rain. I was so overcome by his manly charms that I stayed. Now, a friend of mine had heard about this Irish fella exhibitioning in Canary Wharf and dragged me along. And the rest, as they say.
Oh.
Pause.
I possess you to take up the nursing.
I always wanted to do it. No one was safe from bandaging in our house. Granny, Grandad, they'd be trussed up like turkeys if they stood still for a minute.
Everyone smiles.
So, was your father a farmer too?
Yes, his father before him and his father before that.
God, wasn't that lucky?
What do you mean?
That they were into it. I mean, that you've all liked it in each generation.
Andy and Alice are uneasy.
It was in the blood.
Of course.
Tom's a born farmer. Never wanted anything else.
That's obvious from the look of the place. More power. It's a credit to you. It must have been great, though, to like the career you were born into.
Andy is getting more uneasy.
Would every farmer's son around here be carrying on the tradition, so to speak?
A lot of them are. Not always the eldest nowadays, of course. Maybe the one that's drawn to it, which makes sense. Girls now, even, I'm glad to say.
Great. I suppose it doesn't really matter who farms a place, does it?
Huh?
As long as the land's cared for, loved. I mean, that's the important thing, isn't it? That the person's in tune with it.
Andy tries to catch Jess's eye to make her stop, but she keeps going.
That's how I knew I liked nursing. I never noticed the time passing when I was doing it. It's a dead giveaway, that, don't you think? Not noticing.
Yes, yes, it is.
You should see this fellow when he's in flow.
Andy looks a bit startled, thinking she is going to mention his recent dry period. Jess's smile reassures him.
He wouldn't hear a bomb going off when he's painting. I might as well not be there, but boy, does something good come out of it. Magic. Every time.
She winks at Andy.
He was always like that.
Are you like that? When you're ploughing or milking or at the mart or stuff like that? Totally absorbed?
He's exactly like that.
You know what? I will have another piece. It'll fortify me for all the work himself here will have me doing in the morning.
If I remember how.
Of course you will.
Tom looks at Andy with interest. Maybe his son will realise what he's been missing and decide to farm. He's hopeful. Interior Andy's old room, short time later. Andy carries suitcases in. The room has a double bed in it, now, but his teenage desk is still at the far side of the room by the window. He looks at the wall over the desk at his old posters and arty prints. He lifts out one of the dinky tractors and looks at it. He is remembering happily at first. He opens an old sketchbook and looks at yard scenes that he sketched in his leaving cert year. They are of his father at work. Walk on, bringing in the cows. Frosty morning, his father putting hay into a round feeder for calves. He touches the drawings and smiles briefly. He is trying to ground himself and remember the good times, but his face clouds now as bad memories of the row he had with his father the day he left home break through.
Arsing around town looking at fucking paintings when there's work to be done here.
Andy shuts his eyes to shake off the memory. It's a long time ago. Jess is at the bedroom door, watching him. He turns, realizing she is there.
You okay?
Fine.
Interior, exterior, Maguire's back kitchen, 7 a.m. the next day. Andy and Jess are putting on overalls and Wellington boots provided by Alice. Andy looks a bit groggy. He hasn't slept very well in his old room. Jess is laughing as she tries to get togged out.
It's a long time since I've seen you in overalls.
They're a bit big.
Here.
What's that?
The farmer's friend. Multi-purpose commodity. Now, are you sure you won't have something to eat? An army marches in its stomach and all that.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Well, if you're sure, but don't worry, I'll make it fry for 10 o'clock. Nothing like a rasher to keep you going.
Jess and Andy exchange secretive looks. Jess makes a face. Alice notices the look and suspects that Jess is pregnant.
Well, let's go. It's great to have a bit of help.
They leave the back kitchen. Exterior, farmyard. We follow them out through the yard to the milking parlour. Alice hits the buttons to start the milking machine. She already has the first cows in. A cock is growing and calves are bawling and Johnny is driving in. Jess is eyeing Andy in his overalls.
They suit you.
I won't get used to them.
First time I saw you, you were in overalls.
Yeah, spattered in paint, not in...
He walks through cowshite, trying to hide his distaste. Alice notices the look. Jess laughs.
Come on. It'll be like old times for you.
Yeah.
Lovely, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Casa Rio by Conor Martin tells the dark tale of hardened sex worker and opiate-dependent Imogen, shunned from her family home at an early age by her sociopath father. As her world becomes more undone around her, she gets an unexpected chance of revenge against crime boss and pimp Otto. Like everything, it will come at a price.
Having accidentally murdered an associate gangland crime figure and stealing a bundle of cash, Imogen is being pursued by crime boss Otto. She and her friend Desi hide out in the homeless shanty town of Trawlers Bay, where she is double-crossed and set upon by Desi's brother and his accomplice. Here she is, just waking up after the ordeal.
Interior, Desi's hut, Trawler Bay, night. Imogen's eyes burst open and she gasps for air. Imogen, breathing heavy, takes a moment. She runs her hand through her hair, wide-eyed and bewildered. She slowly drags herself to sit up, clutching her ribs. She tries to make sense of everything. Imogen crawls over to a disturbed floorboard where the money was situated. It's gone.
Oh, no. Fuck.
Imogen kicks the wall in anger and covers her face with her dirty hands. Imogen turns and crawls to the exit. Exterior, Trawlers Bay commune night continuous. Imogen rises up from Desi's hut to an illuminated landscape of fire pits and barrel bonfires to keep the commune warm. The area is quiet. The residents are keeping to themselves. Imogen hobbles over to Desi. The residents look on at the injured Imogen but do nothing to aid her. Desi still passed out and under the influence. Imogen boots him in the side, but he barely flinches. Instead, lets out a small, weakened groan.
You fool, Desi.
Imogen slumps down to the floor in front of a fire pit. She feels her side and squirms. She gets lost, staring into the flames, her eyes watery and bloodshot. There is movement behind her.
Hi.
Imogen looks around to see Eric's daughter standing behind her.
Hi.
Are you okay?
No, not really.
The girl sits down beside Imogen. Imogen closes her eyes and swallows hard. The girl hands a used bottle of water to Imogen.
Thanks.
Imogen unscrews the bottle and gulps it down without catching a breath. She wipes the excess away from her lips.
Where'd they go?
The girl says nothing, but looks uneasy.
Where?
Got in the car and drove off.
Oh, shit.
A beat.
What's your name?
Beth,
What age are you, Beth?
12. And you?
I'm Imogen.
Imogen slowly pulls herself over to Desi. She looks at his face for a moment and gives him a kiss on the cheek.
When he comes to, tell him I'm sorry I had to go.
A beat.
Do yourself a favour, Beth, and get yourself as far away as possible from here, especially now.
There's nowhere else for me to go. This has been my home.
Imogen looks at Beth with slight concern. Exterior, river, bank, knife. Beth throws rope at Imogen in the boat.
Thanks.
Imogen places the rope behind her.
Remember what I said?
She yanks on the cord a couple of times before the engine fires up. Imogen steers herself back into the bright lights of Loch Gorman town. Covers some distance in the boat before she glances back to see Beth stood in the same position, gazing back out to her. Cut to exterior, Loch Gorman town, night. Imogen stands underneath the towering Commodore John Barry monument and waits to cross the road from oncoming traffic. Misty fog slowly descends upon the quayfront. She crosses the road toward a car park. Exterior townhouse street, Loch Gorman, night. Imogen stands by a street pole, looking into a warmly lit townhouse. Her bloodshot eyes survey the building from window to window. Imogen sees the figure of a man throwing on a hat and a coat. The front door opens. Imogen becomes startled and moves slightly behind a wall. A middle-aged man exits the house, and he feels the cold and tightens his collar and disappears down a side street. Imogen makes her move over to the house. She puts her hand into her pocket and takes out a key. She looks at it with hesitation. Imogen looks around and lets herself in. Interior townhouse, night, continuous. Gingerly, Imogen descends upon up a flight of stairs. As she does so, she hears the sound of medical equipment buzzing, beeping, and the hissing of a ventilator apparatus. Imogen slowly clutches a door handle and enters. Interior townhouse, master bedroom, night, continuous. An old, frail woman lay in the bed. Madeline Daly, mid-50s. Her eyes closed with a tube coming from her mouth. The room unkempt and dimly lit. Imogen is overwhelmed by the sight.
Ma'am, what has he done to you?
Imogen moves closer to the bed and sits down beside her.
I don't know if you can hear me,
A beat.
but I'm sorry for all this, what I caused you. If I hadn't have gone and just stayed, stood up to him, then maybe,
Imogen drops her head.
well, maybe none of this would have happened.
Imogen scans the heavy machinery around her mother. The life support machine chimes with her mother's vitals. The ventilator ushers in fresh carbon dioxide. Imogen notices her mother's lips are dried and flaky. She leaves the room for the ensuite and comes back out with a damp cloth. Imogen approaches her mum and squeezes the damp cloth, expelling droplets onto her parched lips. Madeline's closed eyelids move from underneath. Imogen leans into her mother's ear and whispers something, and she then stands up. Madeline's feeble hand catches Imogen and squeezes it slightly. A tear rolls down Imogen's cheek, and she slightly smiles. The bedroom door is pushed open furiously.
You! What did I tell you?
It's Imogen's father, Dr. Edmund Daly, late 50s, scrawny looking. Cut to exterior Imogen's family home night continuous. Imogen is ragdoll out the front door and shoved to the ground. She falls heavily and awkwardly. Her phone slides onto the tarmac. Imogen shrieks in discomfort as she clutches her damaged ribs.
I told you once before, Imogen. Do you want to finish her off? Do not come round here again, or I won't be responsible for what I do.
A beat.
You don't exist.
Edmund furiously slams the door. Imogen, in pain and upset, stares up at the moon and the passing clouds. Her phone rings. Imogen reaches over and puts the phone to her ear.
Where?
Exterior bandstand, Loch Gorman, night. Imogen exits a lane and approaches the town's bandstand. In the centre of it is a figure of a man, standing, waiting. The man lights up a cigarette and moves closer to the railing, but is still obscured by the darkness. As Imogen approaches the bandstand and walks past another missing persons poster attached to a wall, it reads, "Have you seen this person, Cynthia MacDonald? Last seen 12:30 a.m., 13th of the 4th, 2019, wearing a blue dress, navy bag, white jacket and plimsolls. Please contact local Garda with any further information." A car quickly turns the corner and shines its headlights on the man. It's Conan. Imogen saunters towards him.
Imogen,
Conan,
what the fuck happened to you?
Imogen ignores the question.
what do you want?
Conan comes down the steps to Imogen. Imogen, hesitant, steps back a little.
I've nothing against you. Why would I?
Because you work for that piece of shit.
Conan reaches out and puts his hand on Imogen's shoulder.
I'm not for any of this, We go back, don't we?
Imogen relaxes a little.
And what about your brother?
He's a company man, ain't he? Regardless, he gets his orders and follows them.
Imogen ponders.
Why am I here, Conan?
A beat. Conan looks uneasy with thought.
I'll get you out of here.
Oh, let me guess. You want the money.
Not all of it.
Imogen sniggers.
I don't have it. It was taken.
What?
It was taken. You're too late. You're always too late.
You'll go after your ma. Where is it?
Imogen looks worried.
I don't have it.
There's a silence between both of them. A car turns quickly around a building and both become alert. It's no one. Imogen takes out her phone. The battery's dead.
Shit.
A beat.
Give me your phone for a minute.
Conan reluctantly hands over his mobile.
Code.
A beat.
0070.
Imogen unlocks it and dials in a number. She puts the phone to her ear and waits. There is no answer. Conan is standing near the street's traffic lights. Imogen holds out his phone to hand back.
Make sure he doesn't go to my mum's.
The amber light
Promise me.
The amber light shines brightly behind him. The green traffic light flicks on and shines bright behind Conan. Out of nowhere and in a blink of an eye, Conan is taken quickly and forcefully out of sight, leaving a cloud of red mist in his wake. Imogen is knocked to the floor with the impact, banging her head off the ground. Droplets of blood cover Imogen. A knife falls from Conan's coat, dropping in front of Imogen. Imogen shakes herself off a little, but her vision is slightly compromised from the fall. Blood drips down from her wound sustained on her forehead. The traffic light turns red, illuminating the area. Imogen hears a struggle until there is no more. Blood splatter hits the floor. In among the shadows, Conan gargles and wheezes his last breath. Silence shrouds the area. Then, footsteps emerge towards Imogen.
Really nicely read. That was lovely.
And finally, last but by no means least, we come to Thorns by Fabia Evans. Here, well-tempered, wheelchair-bound Rose arrives at her brother Mick and his wife Fiona's house for a family dinner, along with her new carer, Lena. The already strained affair becomes further inflamed by the arrival of an unexpected guest, Rose's estranged son, Sean. Bittered by past betrayals and buried traumas that are surging to the surface, Rose attempts to cut her family out of her life in a bid to shield herself from further pain. Only her carer Lena perseveres, softening her enough to a meeting with her estranged son. But will this sudden showing of vulnerability be her downfall?
In this excerpt...
Water, please.
Rose is eyeing the bottle of wine on the table.
What's this now? Some cheap shite from Aldi, is it?
Fiona's smile twitches.
Would you like a glass, Rose?
Well, I don't want poisoning. I have enough troubles with me bowels as it is. It's all yous have.
Do you know, I think we've a nice bottle of Bordeaux in the pantry there, Rose. Just give me 1 second, yeah.
Silence descends as Mick vacates the room. Rose eyeballs Fiona, smirking spitefully. Fiona stubbornly refuses to meet her gaze, a frozen smile etched on her face. Lena clears her throat loudly.
You have a lovely home.
Thank you, Lena. Well, Mick and I are happy with it.
Fiona shoots Rose a preemptive glance, steeling herself, though primed for a retort. Rose merely raises an eyebrow. Mick reappears, bearing wine and water.
Thank you.
No bother at all, Lena. How's this one for you, Rose?
Rose nods, unenthusiastic. She starts to cough wretchedly. Mick winces.
So, how have you been since we last spoke?
Rose shrugs, clearing her throat as she rifles through her handbag.
Same as always.
She pulls out her cigarettes and lighter. Fiona stiffens. Rose pops one in her mouth, holding the lighter close.
No, look, you know this is a non-smoking house.
Yeah, Rose, that probably isn't a good idea, you know, what with the...
Rose shoots him a filthy look, eyes wide with warning.
You know, Fiona's right, this is... You shouldn't be smoking in the house.
Rose rolls her eyes, sighing exaggeratedly. She cocks a finger at Lena. Lena jumps to her command, wheeling Rose's chair towards the door.
Oh, and please watch the flower beds this time. They're very delicate.
Rose ignores her. The front door closes and Fiona exhales dramatically, shaking her head at Mick.
Fiona.
That woman is going to put me in an early grave. She's going to hit the roof, Mick.
She might have first, but...
She's going to hit the roof. Jesus Christ, what are we doing?
Fiona pours herself another wine and proceeds to down it. Mick winces. Exterior, Mick and Fiona's house, evening. Lena is scrolling on her phone, shivering from the cold. Rose smokes. Her eyes drift to the flower beds, and she smirks as she flicks the cigarette. Interior, living area, Mick and Fiona's house, evening. Everyone seated at the table. There's an awkward silence.
Lena, how long have you been working as a carer then?
Oh, just 1 year. I worked in Dublin before here.
So what brought you to Wexford?
I have children. I wanted them to grow up in the country.
Oh, you have children. How old are they then?
3 and...
Oh, Jesus, don't get her started. Sick of hearing about those children. When's dinner?
Such a shame some people don't have a maternal bone in their body.
Rose's expression clouds with rage, fists clenching. Fiona looks instantly regretful.
And some people have a lot to say about subjects they'll never have any concept of.
What?
Lads.
The doorbell rings, slicing through the furious tension. Mick looks towards the door and back to the table. He's nervous.
Jesus, who's this now? Don't tell me you've ordered a bloody takeaway for dinner yet. What's the excuse this time? Oven on the blink?
Fiona's momentary anger has been swiftly retaken by nerves. She knocks back the dregs of her glass of wine.
I've told you before, I'm not dragging myself out all this way if neither of you can be bothered cooking a bloody meal.
No, it's not. No. Fiona's after doing a lovely meal, you know.
Fiona reaches for another top-up. Her hands are shaking. Rose notices. The doorbell rings again and Mick rises to his feet.
We've another guest joining us this evening, Rose. Yeah.
Who?
Fiona sips silently, shooting an anxious glance at Mick. Mick leaves the room. Sounds of greeting at the front door. Mick re-enters, followed by a young man, Sean, in his early 30s. Rose is perplexed, squinting with uncertainty.
Well, look, I know it's been a long time for both of you, but... Hey, ma'am.
All the blood drains from Rose's face. The room is still.
Mick.
Rose, look, please, just try and stay calm here, yeah? I know this is a shock.
Don't blame Uncle Mick.
Fiona is still gulping wine, darting eyes wide and alert. Lena perturbed by the tension.
You brought him here.
Rose.
Mick's only trying to do the right thing.
Stay out of it.
Rose, just hear him out, yeah? He wants the chance to talk.
Rose's breathing spikes and she begins coughing again, reaching for her handbag.
Too little, too late.
But it's not. Not yet.
Rose jerks. Mick falters, clearing his throat.
I just meant...
He told me.
An excruciating silence falls. Rose's expression darkens, teeth gritted. Fiona hiccups.
That's why I wanted to see you again.
Rose, look, you can't hold the past against him like this. You know, he was just a boy.
Take me home.
No, don't take her home.
Sure, let her on.
Can't you just wait, like, even for 5 minutes?
Rose, please. Let's just all take a breath here.
Sure, who be wanting to look at that scowl all night? Lad is only wanting to talk because of the cancer.
Fiona!
Another silence. Fiona appears suitably embarrassed. Mick is mortified.
I said, take me home.
Lena jumps to her feet.
Wait, just hold on.
Lena hesitates, looking between Sean and Mick and back to Rose.
Who pays your wages, girl?
Lena swiftly wheels Rose out, pausing briefly by the door.
Thank you for the water and...
Move!
Lena scurries away, pushing Rose out of the room. The front door slams closed, leaving the three remaining to regard one another regretfully.
Thank you. So that's all of our 8 writers, and what we'd like to do is we'd like to invite the 8 writers to come down to the front of the stage here, and if you'd like to ask them any questions, we can have like a very quick Q&A about the course and what they've been working on over the last year. So just like to invite them all down here. Thank you.
Come on, guys, stop shy.
Should they sit down here? Should we let them sit down?
Yeah, we let them.
Come on, I know you're all usually in your little rooms typing away. And all down. Could we please give a round of applause to our actors, by the way, who are really fabulous, really, really good. So we all here?
So Fabian's not here.
Okay. Could we please give a round of applause to the writers? They've been...
Down there, guys.
They've worked so hard over the last year and a half, and we've been taskmasters at times, and we've really, really pushed them. Nobody's dropped out. Nobody's stopped coming to us, and it's been a joy for us to actually work with them. So I'll hold on to the mic. If people want to, does anyone have a question? Would anyone like to ask the writers a question? Are you all really shy?
Surely there's one question.
Okay, that's okay.
Hang on, we got one.
Yeah, I just have a question. I guess it's for all of them. Did you discover something new from hearing it read out loud?
Absolutely, yes. And I learned from everyone else's being read out as well. So I probably learned more from the other people's being read out. And I sort of took things away from it, saying, wow, that's excellent. That's a really nice way of describing something. Oh, sorry. That's a really nice way of describing something. Or, you know, that was a lovely turn, or just something I wasn't expecting. And yeah, I've found when they were reading it out, there was some lines that didn't work in my one, maybe, let's say. And I thought to myself, okay, there's a better way of phrasing that, or there's a beat before, that should come in a little bit later. And the actors were amazing on the day, and even tonight again, that they really put a huge amount of effort into it and put intonation into it that I wouldn't even thought of in places. I said, oh, that actually works better the way they did it than I had actually thought.
Just to give a little bit of context there as well, that they've been working on this for the last year and developing it. So we're at the stage now where each of these writers that they've moved from training into professional development. So they're all now engaged in professional development of this TV series. So that means that they're actually working and paid as writers. Yeah. So sorry, any more questions? Yeah, that'd be great.
Hi everyone, my name's Emma and I wrote Pamper Me.
Because you might remember what all the names were, so Pamper Me was...
Oh, sorry, it's the one about the Botox and the plasters.
So my name is Roberto Forte and mine was Haven, so it was a science fiction one. It was the daughter explaining, or the mother explaining to the daughter a little bit about her work.
I'm Margaret Hawkins and I wrote the farming one about Tom and Alice and the son. Rural based, that's me.
Hi, I'm Abby Way and I wrote the one about the old man and the boy and the manipulation stuff going on.
Hi, I'm Chris O'Connor. I wrote Red Boots about the hit and run.
Hello, I'm Connor. I wrote Casario, and I know you dearly want to know who took Conan out of it. It's a vampire. What can I say?
Hi, my name's Max. I wrote the one about the married couple who have lost their son.
So the question still stands, I guess, to everybody else of Marissa's question about did they learn anything. So just to give some context as well, last weekend all of our amazing actors came down to Wexford on Saturday and Sunday, and then they had all of their we had table reads and each of their scripts were read out loud, so that was a really good opportunity for the writers to hear their scripts for the first time read by actors. And yeah, so if anyone else has something to say.
Yeah, I think it was a really useful exercise for me personally anyway, because there's a couple of things, obviously, as you go through the process, things get flagged, especially by, well, it's been Laura and Paul and Fiona that we've been referring to and from all this time. So it was great to get the kind of confirmation of the things that have been flagged, and so you can be a little bit less precious about killing some babies, which is a phrase that I've come to know only too well, so it's genocide at this point, but anyway. But yeah, it's been fantastic for that, like, so it just helps you to, you know, kind of get over yourself a bit in a way, be a little bit less precious. That's what I got from that anyway.
What I got from it was purely really dialogue and what works and what don't work, and hearing the other writers, their work being talked and discussed or being read out, like, inspired me to come along to do my own and change things, make things better. So, you know, it was just an inspiring weekend, and to hear the lads or the actors, yeah, it was just insightful, like, really, and you can really hear what works and doesn't work. So yeah, can I just give a big shout out to Laura Way, Fiona Kinsella and Paul Walker. Superstars.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Any more questions? One more question?
One question. Hang on, I'll come up to it.
Right. Thank you very much. I'm afraid it's not a question, it's an observation. And that is that it's been like kind of bedtime story for all of us sitting out here in the audience, and I'm just hoping that the beds have all been prepared upstairs for us and we get a glass of milk and a biscuit and have a nice good sleep. But apart from that, it's just been really wonderful. It's been like story time. It's wonderful actually seeing everybody working and seeing the results of everybody's work, and the initiative just is absolutely mind-blowing, from the talk at the beginning to everything that's happening here now. So thank you to everybody that put this together, because it's unique in my experience, and I hope we'll see a lot more of it. Thank you very much.
Laura?
Okay, so I think we all need a drink, don't we? I'd just like to... Yeah?
Just want to say one... Sorry. Oh, yeah, do you want to add?
Well, not if we're all drinking, but yes, I did have a question. Do you want to say what you want to say first?
What? Please, no, you go first, please.
My question was actually which Irish screenwriters you've been influenced by. Who have you admired? Or maybe open it up, screenwriters, but I'd be interested if there was contemporary Irish screenwriters that you admire, but beyond that.
Very quickly, after just seeing, well, the Banshee of Inisharan there recently again, I was asking Gary about working at McDonagh, and that was one, I must say, it was a slow burner for me, but by the end of it I came out inspired. Like, he is actually an amazing writer as well, so that one for me at the moment, and being, you know, Irish as well helps, yeah.
Laura Way.
Well, I mean, you know, but you have written them. Not bona fide.
The main, well, there's lots of international ones, but for me, the main Irish writer would probably be Ronan Bennett. He wrote, he writes Top Boy, and I think he's very good.
Okay, so we're definitely getting thirsty now, right? Can I just say, Al and James and Catherine, who've been working behind the scenes all day today and have put this together like that, and it's been so smooth. Al, James, and Catherine. It is Catherine, isn't it?
Katie.
Kate. Well. And Catherine. I just want to say thanks. The way he's worked today was absolutely incredible, and it was so relaxing to be with you, so we really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And also just to say a big thank you to Aisling in the National Opera House here, and to Liz Burns and Liz Hoare for their amazing work in Screen Wexford. Al is absolutely incredible as well. He's a wonderful coordinator, and Fiona Kinsella and everybody at the Women in Film and Television have done a great job as well to get all these great speakers down here today. So we're very lucky.
There we are. Now, Thomas More for drinks. Yeah. Okay, we'll all go to Thomas More and have a few drinks, and we can have chats and talks, and we can discuss how brilliant the writers and the actors were.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So
Thanks
very
guys.
much.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night. God bless.